Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, and getting better. Thank you for being here. My name is Ben Hanson. I'm joined by YouTube extraordinaire Jacob Geller.
Hello.
The king of YouTube, as he insists on being called, and everything that goes along with it.
Don't forget it.
And we're also joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Who has never seen The Shining, and he needs to fix that quickly.
Throw me under the bus right at the beginning here. Come
Look,
on.
there's great films I haven't seen. I can't think of any right now, so the bus is far away from me, but you should fix that. And then Janet Garcia. Welcome, Janet.
Hello. I've also never seen The Shining.
Ooh, okay, so you and Kyle can watch it, and then we can do a max spoilers on The Shining. That sounds great.
But you also got to read it.
Yeah, you got to read it, and then
What's
you have to watch
the
Dr.
proper
Sleep.
order?
Just watch the movie. I think you'll be fine.
Probably start there.
I was watching that movie last night in a theater, and I was realizing I've never read a single Stephen King book. That seems like a big, colossal cultural
Okay,
oversight.
well, here's the thing we throw you under the bus for.
Come at me,
The
boss.
Shining book is way better than the movie. Like, sorry, Kubrick.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
but
like
the movie's
weeds
better because you don't have to read it. So
Interesting
All right,
point.
well,
Interesting point.
we've returned to my 5th grade arguments about Harry Potter and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
it all comes back. This is what you've been training for, Jacob. Look sharp.
Hey, pop quiz, Jacob Giller. How far did they get with the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movies?
Well, they made what, Prince Caspian?
Did they get to Prince
or the Voyage
Caspian?
of the Dawn Treader?
I
They
don't
made
remember.
3,
Did they get to Voyage of the Dawn Treader? I genuinely don't remember.
I can't remember the series. I don't remember like the book order, but I think they made 3 movies.
Okay, that sounds right. Hey, on this episode of the podcast, we are talking about God of War Ragnarok, everybody. No spoilers! I am going to be adamant about this. We're talking only about the first 5 hours and primarily focusing on gameplay, but we are, in fact, talking about the biggie, God of War Ragnarok. We're going to be talking about the other biggie, the quiet biggie, they call it, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
The silent majority, I think, is
quiet man.
how it's referred to.
That's right. And then we'll talk a little bit about Scorn, because we need to talk about Scorn. And then this is a hot swappy episode. Then JeffM's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about Gotham Knights. That'll be great. Then Kelsey Lewin's going to be joining us. We're going to talk about, I believe, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, also about some retro game conventions, and then we're going to answer a ton of community questions that everybody submitted over there on Patreon. Thank y'all for being here. MinnMax just celebrated its 3rd anniversary. Thanks to everybody who came out to our community meetup, by the way, at Utapills Brewing last Friday. That was fun. If you couldn't make it, we understand. We're in Minnesota after all. You can check out MinnMax's YouTube channel for it's a pretty sloppy video, but it shows off exactly what it was like there, I guess. But yeah, there's a comment where it's like, this feels so much like Ben has dad energy of taking out the camcorder and shoving it in people's faces. And it's that, but also imagine if, dad with camcorder energy, if he also had like 3 beers in him. So I apologize for the tone of that video.
Is that not just dad with camcorder?
Yeah, I think that reflects a lot of people's experience.
I guess so. But it's also like I was so excited to have all those people there, and it was really fun. So it's like excited dad is most obnoxious dad. But you can check that out on YouTube, and thanks again for supporting us and making this whole thing possible. All right, let's jump into it. God of War Ragnarok. We got to do it. So just setting the scene. Codes were provided by Sony. Don't you forget it. I have a code, but just to frustrate the entire world, I have not started it yet because I'm waiting to start for the deepest dive. We're going to be taking the deepest dive.
You downloaded it, though.
I did not.
Right?
I did not.
Download it.
He doesn't want to see that PlayStation screen.
Yeah.
It might show some spoilers.
That's right. I got to jump into Gotham Knights. I can't even have it like on the splash, just like tempting me to start it because I want to go in and have the discussion to be as fresh as possible for the deepest dive, which... Hey, just so y'all know, we're going to be talking about God of War this week. We're going to be talking about God of War next week on the main show. But if you're looking for truly the best, most thorough discussion about God of War Ragnarok on the internet, you can find that with the Deepest Dive, which is our whole Game Club series. We encourage you to join us for that adventure. Submit comments. We will read your discussion points in the episodes, and then also you can unlock the podcast version of that. Normally it's just on YouTube, and it will be on YouTube throughout the month, but you can unlock the podcast version of that because this thing's going long, so you probably want that by supporting us over there on Patreon. So we'll go more into that a little bit later. But all right, God of War Ragnarok. You can talk about the first 5 hours. Again, presumably you've continued to play, but you are under lock and key. You can't talk about anything beyond that. Janet,
I want to.
I know. Kyle and Jacob had a separate video on MinnMax's channel and also in that bonus podcast feed where they talked a little bit about it. But first 5 hours, gameplay-wise, impressions-wise, biggest surprise for you, do you think?
The biggest surprise...
Is it about what we're expecting?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. I think like it's like like everything's just like swirling around, right? Yeah, I think it definitely the first 5 hours, the top gameplay impressions are it's more God of War.
Right.
But one thing for you asking me what was my biggest surprise, my biggest surprise in the first 5 hours is that I was getting my butt kicked a lot more than I was expecting.
And you just played 2018.
And I think that does speak to the fact that something within any behavior, I think, is a little bit more layered or thoughtful than 2018 was, but in a way that like feels a little imperceptible, which is odd because mechanically it's like the same. I feel like if you didn't remember 2018 and I showed you the right angle from Ragnarok in that first 5 hours, you could be like, oh, this is... Yeah, I know this game. But playing it, I'm like, oh, why? I'm dying so much more. And I think you just have to be a little bit more thoughtful. And it's funny seeing, if you don't want any spoilers, stay away from like the PlayStation blog because they're like, and here's this snippet and this snippet and this snippet. And in one of the posts they put up, again, without spoiling like the game, they had mentioned how they tried to design their combat moments to be combat puzzles. And I'm like, is that why I'm dying?
Because you can't solve
so
the
much
puzzles.
more? Yeah, so that's what surprised me the most.
That's interesting. Yeah, Kyle and Jacob, do you agree that it's harder so far, or in the first 5 hours at least?
I have
no.
I'm playing on normal.
Really? Okay, because I had a tough time with 2018s for sure.
And maybe it is more of a puzzly thing, and maybe I'm just like locking into that mechanic earlier.
Yeah,
because there are diverse encounters. It's not. I mean, God of War has always been and continues to be a game where you walk from one arena. And then you do some stuff, and then you end up in another arena. But they do a good job of not, in these first 5 hours anyway, like making them not feel like you're just moving arena to arena, just with the design of the levels and the layout and everything.
Yeah, I think to Janet's point, it does feel much more like it's not just like here's a room and there are some guys in it. It feels almost Doom-y in that it's like there are a bunch of places you can go to fight within this one fight. Like they have you can go like up and down levels. There's ways you can like jump off and kind of hit people below you and stuff. And so it feels more varied in that way. I did everything in God of War. I killed like the Valkyrie Queen and whatever in the first one. And so like I was surprised how much I like remembered the feel of it. And so I've been playing on hard and like also getting my butt kicked. But like I think that God of War, like for me, that's always been kind of a hard game. And so I like, like I like having it really challenge me. Yeah. But I didn't notice. I started on normal and was not getting hit, I think, because of how much I remembered from that first game.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jacob,
but
since
it varies.
Yeah, I know you're a big God of War fan going back in the day, and to be fair, you liked 2018, but you weren't as in love with it.
I mean, I think I'm probably the most negative on this podcast about 2018.
You beat every Valkyrie.
right.
Yeah, but I did my due diligence.
Did the work, yes.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
But Ragnarok, enjoying it more or less than you expected in the first 5 hours.
I am really digging it.
That's great.
Which is unusual because I also agree with Janet about like it feels those first 5-6 hours. You're doing the same, you're seeing a chest and there are 3 bells and you ring the 3 bells and the chest opens, it's like it is fun. God of War 2018. But I think the story is just so immediately more interesting that I have like really, like the thing that I didn't connect with in 2018 was the story. And like,
yeah, it was too
I'm
good.
a big fan of it.
I don't want to see this.
No, is it just,
look, maybe I don't have kids. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, fix it. That's interesting though. Is
Has
it
that
because
ever been a problem for anyone?
Janet, there's a dad on the podcast. Be cool. But do you think it's because the first one was mainly about the father-son relationship and the mythology stuff was definitely there, but in the back burner? But in this, it's like, we need to cram in the rest of Scandinavian mythology into this one final game set in this universe, so let's go.
Not necessarily. I think my problem with the first one is it felt like the same plot beat over and over, where it was like, I get it, Kratos and Atreus have tension between them, and they just like played that same beat for 20 hours in a row, and then at the end they had like a tender moment. And this is starting with that all in the background. And so while there is still obviously things they disagree on, like it just gets to move in different directions. So like they've kind of done all their relationship homework, and so now like more interesting things can happen.
We're finally doing lab experiments, and it's like, all right. I love 2018. Also, for the quick difficulty thing, I like died like maybe 5 times in 2018. That's why I was like shocked that I was dying.
That is
in
interesting.
This game.
That is interesting.
But yeah, I mean, I love the combat. I think it works well. But for the narrative, I think too, there is still like a very obvious, like, I think theme to the game that's like been told many a times in many different media. But I think it's a more interesting theme. And I think as far as Kratos and Atreus, what's more intriguing is that now the conflict is like, will you let me, I'm trying to find out what we got to do or who I am. And it's like, all right. And it's just like, it's a different kind of tension. And I think it's a more intriguing one because you don't know what direction you're going in. I think what's maybe a little bit like run of the mill of 2018, to Jacob's point, is like, the journey. You got to deliver the ashes. They tell you that in the first minute
and
of the
it's
game.
just like, where you're going to end up in that game.
And without spoiling the game, right? You're going to deliver the ashes. Like, that's the game. Right. It's like in Celeste, you're climbing the mountain. That's the game, right? There's other things that happen that are intriguing in that, but that is what the game is. Here, I am not quite sure. Like, you kind of know what the goal is, like from the trailers, right? They tell you, but it's like, okay, but what does that mean? Like, I don't know what is going on, where we're going, what will happen. I have no clue what's going on at any time, but I'm really intrigued at every second. It's good.
Is it, Kyle, again, without going too much into details, the first 5 hours, more action-packed than 2018 in a big way? About the same pacing for like the opening of 2018?
I think people might disagree with me, but I think it's on par.
Okay.
I mean, God of War forever has always had a really strong like first 2 hours. Right. Like that's just become like it's a weird thing to call like a staple of the series, but like when a new God of War comes out, like, and you go to play it, you set aside 2 hours and you give it the attention it deserves in the beginning, because the beginning is sometimes going to be like the best part. And like this has a really strong start. There's a lot of really cool stuff that happens in the beginning, All right. I think it's comparable to the last one in that regard. Yeah. All
right. I love it. Anything else we should touch on before we dive in, even in a bigger way next week, and then with the deepest dive as well?
I mentioned it in the chat I had with Jacob, but one big surprise for me in the beginning is that the game is like really funny. Really? I have found myself laughing a lot.
Just Mimir stuff?
Really surprised me. Didn't expect that.
No,
really
just
have found
Mimir.
the writing to be very funny.
Okay, above and beyond Mimir.
There's a recap at the beginning of the game that you can select if you want it.
That's nice.
So that's the only thing I want to shout out.
Huh.
Basically, they're really leaning into Kratos being like the ultimate straight man who just won't give in any, he's just like,
well, there's a lot even in 2018 of like
very funny this time around.
I mean, he had like flavors of Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy in 2018's entry.
Yeah. It's similar to that, but they're able, again, with like, if every conversation doesn't have to be an argument between Kratos and Atreus, then there can just be like more kinds of conversations.
Right. Kyle, based on the first 5 hours, can you give any sort of thumb presentation for how much you're digging this thing? Kyle's for
thumbs up.
Wow.
It's good, man. It's good so far.
All right.
Those first 5 hours are strong.
All right. And who can say if you've played more? God of War Ragnarok, everybody. Again, sorry for dancing around this. If you are just ready for people to rip off Band-Aids and start throwing out spoilers, sorry, you came to the wrong podcast.
I think everywhere else on the internet is doing that.
Is that right?
Yeah. No problem in finding it.
And we're going to be doing it in a huge way with The Deepest Dive. We're going to be recording the first discussion there, covering the first 5 to 6 hours. So it'll be up on Monday on YouTube, and then also in the bonus podcast feed. And so we'll be expecting your comments that we can read in that discussion that first weekend as well. So we know it's going to be a little bit tight, but we want to dive into this sucker. Let's see. I'm very excited about the panel that we have for this deepest dive. I'll reveal it next week, but here's a tease. We have one old school MinnMaxer joining us, one mythology expert joining us, and another person who let's just say they might be a little slow with the buttons, but I think people will get a kick out of it. And they've also been on a Deepest Dive in the past.
I know who's going to be on, and I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, just think a little bit about it. It's a puzzle. It's like one of those God of War puzzles.
Oh, ring bells.
That's right.
Except for the one where you don't.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to write that down. God of War Ragnarok,
faster.
everybody. We're going to celebrate the hell out of this thing, so please join us. Also, speaking of celebrating the hell out of it, Jacob Geller, I'm sorry that you haven't played Bayonetta 3 yet.
Nintendo's keeping their boy in the dark.
Oh, apparently it's how do our predictions do?
Oh, I forgot. I think somebody on Twitter said that
little
you were
better.
that you were spot on, Janet. I think for Bayonetta 3 Metacritic.
That's right. Put
Yeah.
it in my resume, man.
I think it was like
Freaking
What did
consulting life.
What did Janet say?
I think it was
I
like
remember what I
89
said.
or something.
That's
think I
that's
said-
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think. Did I say 89? I guess when I went 92, but either way,
Okay, so,
pretty close.
Dare User X tweeted at
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
like
yeah.
They gave us Jacob
great.
82. Hanson, apparently you said under 82, but also 83. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what I was doing. That's wrong.
I said 83, 84, and then Janet said 89 to
Very
91.
impressive. Very impressive,
Yeah.
Janet.
Oh my
well,
God.
you gave a range. Coward's way out, but fair.
You gave
Hey,
a range
man,
too.
I'm just saying,
I don't know what I was doing.
Consulting work, just throwing that out there.
Interesting. But yeah, Bayonetta 3, we'll talk
Highly
about it
requested.
probably next week. But it seems like from reviews, people like it. Gameplay rules. Story is a little disappointing. It's kind of the high level thing for Bayonetta 3, which is out on Friday. But
Sounds like a video game. Let's
that's
go.
it. Speaking of,
Sounds like a Bayonetta video game.
hey, let's talk about the biggie. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This is an interesting game. I think this is an interesting game. It's shockingly quiet out there about this game. Has anybody else noticed that? So it's a weird thing where it's technically out on Friday. The campaign,
much going on.
ton going on.
I know that's
If
out.
you pre-order it, you can
Yes.
play the campaign.
Oh yeah, can I ask your guys' opinion on that? Does that to you? Do you feel like that is still a pre-order if the pre-order allows you?
I feel like
play
it
it, like that
speaks
little
to the
window?
fact
It's pretty
that Call of Duty
diabolical.
thinks of its campaign the same way it thinks of like a bonus costume. Like it's like, yeah, pre-order it, you'll get this meaningless thing that
God.
no one cares about.
Oh wow!
I wonder also if it makes them a little more immune
No one else
to.
even responded to that question. That was really good.
Yeah, but I wonder if it makes them a little more immune to reviews, to have things like scattered, like it's less impactful to have like review in progress up on GameSpot.com or whatever. Like we're at 7, but we'll be changing over time. And now with multiplayer, it kind of, spreads it out a little bit. So it's like, look, if we're going to get dinged in reviews at all, let's just try and diffuse it as much as we can. But I can't tell if it's still just remnants of people not wanting to cover Activision in a big way or what. But I was digging around looking for Modern Warfare 2, just like interviews. So I'm really curious, like what the developers from Infinity Ward are saying about this thing. There was like a 5-minute Jeff Keighley interview, and then I found like one story on IGN where it was like, hey, the developers said they want to make a spin-off game about Ghost. Check out the full interview for even more. And then there was no link, and there's no full interview that I can find at least. So I don't know. Jacob Geller, you've been playing this. I played the first hour, like the first 3 or 4 campaign missions, but how much have you played of Modern Warfare 2?
Yeah, I've played like 2 hours.
Okay. What do you think so far?
Mark a time code, Ben. I
Yeah.
think it fucking sucks.
Oh, interesting. All right.
and kind of it's like I two opinions on it, which is
Yeah.
one, I think that it's a fundamentally evil game, but also I think it's like
Jesus
bad
Christ.
as a Call of Duty.
Really?
Like, I
That's
think it's-
awful.
yeah, I think I mean it's like so of
Burn
those
now.
first 2 hours, it's like 4 of the missions have been basically clean house from the first one. One has been the longest sniper mission I've ever played, and one has been an AC-130 mission that took 7 hours, it felt like.
Wait, okay, this is interesting. Maybe it's all in the second half, but I'm like, it took me a while to come around to Call of Duty, but I enjoyed them for what they are. I mean, I even forgot. I started this game and I was like, oh, that's right. I finished 2019's campaign. I forgot I made it all the way through that thing. I mean, not that it was incredibly long or anything, but from the first hour, first of all, my first impression is this game looks so much better than I was anticipating. I forgot how good even the 2019 Call of Duty game looked, but like they drop you in this canyon and just the lighting
water?
is just,
Tell
oh,
me
the
about the
water
water.
is great. It is freaking gorgeous. I'm playing on PC, but it is just mind boggling how good it looks. And then was like, this seems all right. I can go for one of these every once in a while, even if I'm kind of sick of the people in the military strategizing room screaming at each other. We need to get rid of these weapons. But fundamentally evil, Jacob Geller.
Yeah, I mean, and I honestly, I don't even think that's like an original take, but like
Sure.
I posted, I hate to reference a tweet, but I went like mildly viral for this, where there's like a very early mission where you're playing like kind of agents crossing through a town on the like Mexican-American border. And it's like a trailer park. And you're just like two guys decked out in guns going through people's houses, and people are coming out and being like, hey, what are you doing here? And it says hold L2 to de-escalate. And when you hold L2, you point your gun directly at them. It's just like the aim button. And then they're like, oh, sorry. And then they like run back in their house. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's what Call of Duty thinks de-escalation is. Right. It's like a dude with an assault rifle aiming it at a civilian.
If I may, it's Call of Duty. What do you want to do? To have them like, what other verbs we got in this series?
I mean, there's literally a mission. One, it's Call of Duty, an evil franchise. But like two, there's a mission later on where there are dialogue options. Or it's like press D-pad to de-escalate, and it says, hey, go back in your house.
Sure.
Like anything that's not aim your gun at their head.
Yeah, maybe also just don't make a level where you're like having to deal with civilians in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like
the military
first,
isn't.
It's like literally the first mission of the game is like you go in a house and you shoot a guy, and then his like grieving widow picks up his gun and tries to shoot you, and you shoot her too, which is a thing that Call of Duty Black Ops has already done, and like two, a fucking evil thing to do. And it's like the whole game is kind of obsessed with this idea of like modern military conflicts are murky, and there's this gray area of morality, but like I haven't finished the game. It's not going to tell you that like Soap was evil for doing that. I can tell you that right now. Like the takeaway is not going to be like, we shouldn't be doing this.
Do you think just culturally things have moved so much in the last couple of years that playing a Call of Duty game is just like impossible? Like even, on our bonus podcast, Party Chat, we had people from the community call in. They're like, I feel gross about just shooting people from other countries for the first time while playing this game, which is interesting that maybe just people have taken a little break from Call of Duty. Well, I mean, not according to the sales, but I mean, culturally from the last couple of years, they haven't really been juggernauts. And now people are jumping back into this one. It's like, have we just changed?
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe technical. Like this game looks so good that there is very little. Like, it seems like the line is much less clear, like where it's like, wow, it feels like I'm really shooting people. And that feels bad. I think in their approach to modern military conflict, like it feels more genuine in a way, which makes it feel grosser. Again, it's like the closer you get to like what modern conflict is actually like, then the worse it feels morally, because like, in the early Call of Duties, when you're even in like Modern Warfare 2 from back in the day, it's like your missions are kind of crouching behind cinder blocks and popping up and shooting guys and whatever. Yeah. And this is like, it doesn't feel video gamey, except in the way that like drone warfare feels video gamey. And so like that just kind of lends it this queasiness.
Yeah. And again, I was so curious to see interviews from them, because I remember, with 2019's Infinity Ward entry of Modern Warfare, that was the whole debate. Remember, the internet lit itself on fire about, they say it's not a political game. Like, we asked them on the cover story, and that kind of blew up in a way, because they're like, well, we didn't mention Donald Trump in the game, so therefore it's not a political game. But it's like, come on, you guys, you know what you're doing here. And so maybe that's one of the reasons they're just shying away, because it seems like they are, quote unquote, getting more, quote unquote, political in this game, but they just don't really want to address it in a big way.
Yeah, it feels like maybe they've just learned they have nothing to gain, that it's like the people who buy Call of Duty aren't convinced to buy it by interviews, but like with those interviews, they can put their foot in their mouth, and then they get a write-up on Polygon about how they put their foot in their mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Are you going to finish it?
Probably, just kind of out of spite, and
You're gonna beat all the Valkyries and everything.
Yeah, smart.
I was thinking about, it's like if you're like a normal person, I don't think you really have anything to gain by like watching low level GOP political debates. But like in that analogy, I'm a pundit, and so it's like I think I should. It's like
Sure.
I think to kind of be able to talk knowledgeably about games. This is one of the most popular games in the world, and so I think it's the campaign's 5 hours long.
Yep,
probably,
and it's going to be the
I'll do
best-selling game of the year. I mean, yeah, you should absolutely keep it in the. I was streaming it on MinnMax's Twitch channel, and there's a level pretty early on where you're walking around the streets of Amsterdam, and again, it just looks amazing, and like the tech for the people are unbelievable, and just the signage is incredible. And so many people in the chat were just like, it's just a bummer that this production value is going to a Call of Duty game. It's like, I hear you. I get it.
Yeah, and it's like that mission isn't fun.
It's pretty
like,
short.
It's really cool seeing Amsterdam, and then it's like you press R3 like 3 times, and that's like what happens there.
Right. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Very curious to hear everybody in the community's thoughts on this thing. Some people are enjoying it. Some people are kind of maybe a little bit beyond the series at this point. But yeah, curious to hear what everybody thinks. All right, a very similar thing here. Scorn. The discussion around Scorn is fascinating. If you don't recall, Scorn is the game that's very H.R. Giger inspired. It's been shown for a long time. It was a Kickstarter originally, I do believe. And now this thing is out, and it's on Game Pass, right? Mm-hmm. That's why everybody has a hot take about this thing? Okay.
I played on Steam Deck for what it's worth.
Oh, okay. That's right, because you don't want your family to see the gross stuff in Scorn.
I just don't think they would think it's cool.
So it's just a lot of
right to trust that impulse.
It's a lot of goopy, dark alien phalluses. But then the interesting that I heard is, it's basically like Myst style gameplay though. Is that what's happening with Scorn?
It's a puzzle game
It's a puzzle
with some
game.
combat, and I hear the combat's really bad. But Kyle, you could tell me if that's true.
I would put it Myst, maybe. Because I heard some people calling it like cyst, right? CYST, which
Sure.
is fair.
That's funny.
I actually think the closest, and it could be just because Silent Hill is on my mind, but it made me think more of like Silent Hill kind of structurally, of like you're solving puzzles and there's combat periodically and it's bad combat. But maybe the combat's supposed to be bad to make it feel more intense and scary, which it does effectively do. But it is very puzzly. It's a lot of figuring out where switches are and making sure you're hitting them in the right order.
I think that the Myst analogy, which I also was thinking of while playing it, is basically almost every puzzle is like figure out what order to use these machines. Like that's kind of what it is. It's like you'll have a pretty big open area and there will be like 5 machines and you're not really sure what any of them do, but if you do them in the right order, you'll be able to progress. But the difference is that in these, all the machines, you like put your fingers in weird suckers and those are the controls. Like that's what's fun.
I have a question on behalf of the entire audience. Is Scorn good?
No, I don't think it is. I played I previewed it and I was like, I'm not reviewing this because it's going to be torturous to try to review it.
Okay.
It really didn't land for me.
So
I thought the
I think
puzzles were
that's
not well made.
Torturous is like fair, and I think it's one of those things that's the intention of the developer, whether you enjoy that or not.
I do think just to Janet's point, I think the first area is bad. I think it gives a pretty bad first impression in that I had more trouble with that first puzzle than any of the other ones.
Same. Yeah. The first puzzle is the most obtuse, but like the weird thing, Jacob, did you finish it? Or
Yep.
you're okay. I do like these kinds of games. Like I would put it in the same ballpark as like an Inside, right? Where it's like,
really?
Yeah, not in terms of like quality or recommendation necessarily, but just in terms of like, I like a creepy game where I really don't understand what's happening. Like I like the sort of uneasiness of like being confused and just looking at things, and it's all very much like self-directed. What are you taking away from this? It's like you can barely even call it like thematic. Like you're taking themes and you have strange ideas about what's happening. I like that kind of thing, and I think Scorn does that really well sometimes, where it's like puts you in really uncomfortable situations that you don't know what you're doing. And I think that's really fascinating and interesting. And it's something that only video games can really do, where it's like, you have to push that button. I know you don't want to push that button, but if you want to like go forward, you need to engage with this thing. And I think that's interesting. But there were moments where it was like combat was really rough. I didn't have health. Checkpoints were really bad. And like those are the moments where it's kind of like it feels like a video game and it gets off the rails. Like there was one sequence. Oh, by the way, I played the whole game. I missed a gun. Like I didn't even find one of the guns, which I think is sort of a sign of like, you guys should have probably made sure I got that gun. But like there are instances where it's like, I gotta activate this switch. Oh, I turned around and died. Okay, now I gotta watch that animation again every time I retry. But like ultimately I walk away with like honestly an impactful experience that like I couldn't even explain, which is like really interesting to me.
Yeah, I fully agree, where it's like if you were writing a review where like every time a bad thing happened you took away a point,
right?
You know, Scorn would be like a 4 out of 10. And that it's like there are really frustrating moments, the puzzles are obtuse, the combat is not great, the checkpoints suck, but like it's just kind of undeniably compelling, you know, like we should say it's like both. I think the visual design and especially the animation work is superb, like unbelievable, you know, to kind of AAA level. And the kind of things where it's like it's all in first person, but like the things that happen in first person are just bananas, and you're kind of playing through because like just to see the next one, you know, it's kind of like an old game where you'd play to see the next CGI cutscene. Yes. Like that's kind of what I felt like with Scorn, but like that they were rewarding enough that even though I had a huge amount of frustrations playing through, like I still kind of recommend it, especially if you're using a walkthrough so you could like jump past some of those annoying puzzle bits.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. I don't know if I can recommend it, really. Like, we'd have to have a good 20-minute conversation to figure out what kind of person you are to be like,
yeah,
I think you might like this. But most of the time, I think I'd be like, no, this is really going to gross you out and you're going to be uncomfortable.
Is it fair to say that
disgusting.
you need to love just the aesthetic because that's what's pulling you through? Like, that feels like what you're describing, Jacob, but I don't know if what you're talking about is more experiential. Okay.
If you didn't vibe with, like, the first minute after you press start, if you weren't like, this is amazing, then like you're not gonna enjoy the game.
If you watched Prometheus and you were one of the people that was like, it's pretty good,
it's like the production design you can't argue with, like
or if you're one of those people that wanted to drink the juice from that mummy coffin or whatever, then Scorn is for you, everybody. It's on PC.
That's the tagline for the game.
It's on PC and Game Pass now. Curious to see where that thing ends up end of the year. All right, Jacob, thank you for being here. Do you have anything else you want to convey before you clap out forever?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me on to play all the games coming out that are not Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
You betcha. Thanks, Jacob. Bye. Jeff Marchiafava, welcome to the big show, sir. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay. What is your life like? Janet, it feels like, is sprinting on 3 different treadmills at once for like game reviews and stuff.
Right.
Do you feel like in your current role, do you feel a crunch of this game season, or is this kind of like, it's about the same as usual because we're not going to burn ourselves out here at MinnMax?
Yeah, it's more, what is that, the sword of Damocles or whatever that's like constantly hanging over, and it's just Elden Ring. I just have to.
Yes.
If I get back and I finish Elden Ring, I will feel fine. I won't care about any other game that I didn't beat this year, but I'm still terrified.
We need to map that out, because my plan was like, well, surely I'll beat it before God of War comes out, and now it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna be jumping into the deepest dive. So I'll do it once I wrap up God of War for the deepest dive. So that's
not a lot of time.
I know, but then maybe it's gonna be
right. Sarah said you're at the end.
I'm like 3/4 of the way through Elden Ring, I believe. And so I think it might be a perfect thing where I'll be playing it and finishing it off as we're talking about Game of the Year stuff. So it'll be super fresh, which maybe that'll be a good thing. Or maybe after playing God of War, it'll just be dog crap on our shoe. We don't really know.
That's going to be a tough one to go back to, I think, after so long.
Well, I'm gonna be streaming it, though. So it helps to have people telling me exactly what I'm doing wrong. That's the only way to really enjoy From Software games, I think. Because I get a lot of crap. Everybody's saying I'm not going to finish it. I'm finishing it, everybody. There's no way around this. I
don't
can't.
know. Famous lots of words, man.
No, absolutely. Hand to God. I know I've been
I'm
saying
hoping you
it
don't
since
finish
Chrono
it.
Cross came out, but
I'm
absolutely.
really
clip
nice.
this.
I'm sorry.
Clip it. Come at me, cowards. I'm finishing Elden Ring. A game that I won't finish, but I was actually very excited to jump in and check out. It was one of those things like I had it download on my PS5. I was like, I am really looking forward to jumping into this thing and seeing what it's all about. But Gotham Knights, everybody, came out last Friday. This is Warner Brothers Montreal's follow-up to Arkham Origins, except it's not in the Arkham universe, and this is the big co-op Batman-y game without
And they
Batman.
insist it's not a follow-up also.
That's right. But it's the same. It's the same studio making another DC open world game that focuses on
Similar
Batman.
visual style.
Yes.
Similar to Virtual.
That's right.
Again, they're worse on mine.
Yeah. Okay. Gotham Knights, everybody. This thing's out. New gen consoles. Janet, you finished it, right?
Yeah.
See, this is why you're a freaking champion, Janet. This is why you're a godsend for this podcast. Thank
People's
you.
champion. That's what they call me.
Absolutely. Give it up. She finished Gotham
champion.
Knights.
Gotham's champion.
JeffM, how far are you in Gotham Knights?
I mean, I've been playing it for hours. It's hard to tell between like actual
2 hours in.
playtime and how it feels.
Okay,
But
okay. We're somewhere around the 3 to 5 area.
No, it's been longer than that. I've played every night, and
Every Gotham night.
Janet, up top.
every Gotham night. Yes. I feel like I've unlocked all the cool abilities for Batgirl, which I don't know is saying a lot.
Okay, and then Kyle, number one DC fan, how far are you?
About an hour.
Okay, I'm about 2 hours into this thing.
Do we all just play as Batgirl? I just like that seems like the.
I
I
did-
played as Robin primarily.
Okay.
Oh, I love
just-
that.
That was like there was no question for me. I guess just because I've always liked Batgirl, where I was like, I'm playing as Batgirl.
Yeah, my solution there was like, well, everyone's going to be Batgirl, of course, because she's the most like Batman, so I need to zig when other people are going to zag. But Robin, no one's going to choose Robin, but okay, Janet, I'm glad to hear that both of us are on
I
the
played a
same
little
train.
bit of not
Nightwing?
Nightwing.
Oh,
not
Red
Nightwing.
Hood?
Red Hood.
I think so,
Hood.
yeah.
Yeah.
The gun, I didn't like Red Hood, but I didn't give him a fair chance. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going back to Robin. I don't want to.
Batman didn't either.
I was
I played Batgirl for a while as well, actually. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get you.
I switched to Batgirl for a bit because I'm like, oh, is she going to have like the cape from Arkham and kind of the more of the cape physics? And it's like,
She
no.
can.
She can? Really?
If you unlock it after doing the 10, interrupting 10
Which,
random crimes. To get your knighthood ability for
No,
her.
it's 10 premeditated.
Right,
crimes.
premeditated.
The
Yeah, you're right,
random
premeditated.
crimes. Why would you count those towards
Yes.
becoming a better
Also,
crime fighter?
And I know we're kind of getting ahead, putting the cart before the horse, but while all of the skill tree stuff, like the points you earn, cuts across characters, the knighthood abilities don't, and that's the thing that you need to like unlock the cape, whatever their secondary traversal thing is, which I saw a lot of people complaining about, which I also
Yeah.
agree is like it's weirdly structured, and I don't know why they structured it that way. It doesn't seem to fit the ethos of the rest of their progression structure across the characters, but whatever.
Jeff, your early-ish take. What do you think of Gotham Knights? How'd they do? How'd the team do?
I'm really here because I want to hear Janet's.
You
explanation
coward! Give us
as-
just a taste. Give
No.
us just a sampling.
Just a range.
I went into it really wanting. I told
Yes.
you I was really excited to play a current gen open world game because I
Yes.
feel like I haven't. I mean, there's obviously Elden Rings and Horizon, but
Saints
I want just kind
Row.
of a big, icons on the map kind of game, and I've been mostly disappointed at almost everything that the game has done. But a large part of that is just I really tried to go in with an open mind for the characters, like the entire cycle up to the game's release. I'm like, why would I want to play as any of these characters?
Exactly.
None of them are
Exactly.
interesting to me whatsoever, especially compared to Batman. And I went into it with the most open mind I could, and I still like Batgirl is. I'm glad I'm playing as Batgirl. She's the only one I wanted to play as. The best I can say is she's inoffensive. Like so far, there has not been any building a personality around that character that has come off as interesting in any kind of way, but she's not actively working against me like the other characters.
Yeah, this is my thoughts just on the early hours of this game. Is this game is in an impossible spot because the game opens with like a literally sweet Batman fight that it's like a cutscene. Then you see Batman die, and then the rest of the game is just these other characters being like, "Oh, can we live up to the Batman legacy?" Where it's like, and all you're thinking of as the player is like, boy, I'd much rather be playing those really fun Batman games. So like story-wise and gameplay-wise, everything is just looking to like this, shining beacon on top of the hill here. It's just an impossible
like
frame of reference.
Signal in the sky, Hanson?
That's maybe a better reference than a Reagan quote. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I hate in stories the most. So you can take some of this as like my personal problem playing the game, but I hate when you have like the younger character who is idolizing other characters in the story, right? Being like, "Gosh, can I live up to that?" And it's like, no, you're not going to. And I don't like that as like, this is my personal struggle, like Batman had the Joker, and these kids have like self-doubt as their, like what they're trying.
Well, now you're just sounding like a
boomer,
they're all
in college.
Kids these days.
To be fair,
I know, and I feel that
and
way.
Red Hood have a lot of problems with Joker as well.
They've all been hurt.
He might have killed one of them at one point.
Well,
they've mostly spent their time bickering with one another. Like I would love for them to just, and maybe it comes later, and I really hope it comes later, but I would love for them to do anything other than just like hang around the Belfry and kind of be snide to one another. And Nightwing wants to be the leader, but he's like a more emo version of Robin, and
it's just,
and I don't get Red Hood just wants to smash people. It's that aspect of it has been a real struggle.
It's just it's not for me at least, it's not a core character fantasy to play as any of these folks in juxtaposition to this character fantasy that we all have of, oh boy, it was really sweet being Batman and being able to fly around these gargoyles and string people up and fly around, just knowing that that's just right there, but not quite there. It's just impossible.
And I mean, that's why I picked Batgirl, and I feel like you could get into that. I don't know a ton about Batgirl as a character, and so I'm sure it's being faithful to whatever has been in the comics, or maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's just, it hasn't done anything interesting with her character yet that I was hoping it would.
Are we out of the loop, Kyle, because there are so many Teen Titans fans out there that they're like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, we've always wanted to play as Robin and Nightwing and stuff. Like, these are our folks.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I like Batman a lot. And I read a decent amount of the comics. I don't keep up to date, but I know the backstories of pretty much all those characters. And so I'm a little more excited about it. Like, I know, but if it's not being surfaced in the game, then that's a problem. Like, you can't rely on, I know about her history with Joker and her time as Oracle. Like, if that's not there for someone like JeffM, then that needs to be readdressed, I think. It's late, but
okay, we've danced around it too much. We have the Batman in our midst. Janet's actually finished this game. Yeah. Janet, where's this thing landing for you?
This game is not good. Okay. It's one of the worst games I've played this year.
Worst, really?
Saints Row. It was funny because someone tweeted me or I've seen tweets go around before the game came out when the previews and my my viral what was it? The Shrek song, right? Living La Vida Loca, and people were like, "Oh, this is gonna be Saints Row," and I was thinking to myself, I don't think it's gonna be that bad. Yeah. And it kind of technically is. Like, I would score them probably the same. And frankly, which one would I rather make someone beat? Ooh, I gotta really debate it because they are neck and neck. Yes. Wow. This game is really bad. The only thing that's good about it over Saints Row is that it's not as nearly as broken. I only encountered maybe one bug, and it was something's spinning in the background, but it's not affecting my gameplay. Baseline, it's middling, right? It starts at middle. And when you start at middle, you only got two places to go. You're either going to overcome the odds, you're going to dip below. And I said this during my preview, and I'm like, I think maybe, it could go either way. And it went the south way by a good margin for a number of reasons. The things that make it worse than just that baseline of the combat's not that interesting are the ways that they've made it convoluted to unlock that secondary ability, are the ways that they structure their quests, where so many of the mainline quests, which are, without getting into spoilers, the case files, you're kind of tracking. Batman was looking into some stuff, like, let's follow these breadcrumbs and see what's going on in Gotham. And those are your case files, those are your main quests. So many of those have objectives within them that are like, to progress, you have to do 2 like premeditated crimes or interrogate 2 people of this faction. And I think so much of what I can sum about this game is there are so many good ideas, but none of them are well executed. Like, I think JeffM nailed it when he was like, none of this is working well. Because you see where the fun could be, you're in the open world and there's stuff like, okay, I forget the names of these, but it's like this challenge where you're going through these like beams of light and you get to the end, you get a cash and some rewards. That's fun to do, but only fun when like the traversal's good enough. Like the traversal's a little too slippery for it to feel engaging to do that challenge. So you're like, okay, that doesn't work. And then doing the random crimes and stuff, like it doesn't really gain you the progression that you maybe would hope it would. So then it's like, that doesn't quite work. And then for interrogating, they're like, hey, go, to progress this main story, interrogate like 2 mob people. And then like the game does this really annoying thing where the UI is so overly convoluted where it's like, okay, this is a game. I should be able to just to track where the mob people might be. But instead you have to go not into like your main mission stuff. You got to go separately into the challenges section, click on that same mission, and then it says, oh, by the way, the mob hangs out in this territory. Then you have to separately go to the map, zoom around, and try to find where that territory is. Then you have to go there. Hopefully you have the fast travel spots unlocked, because or else you got to go there manually. You go there, and then you have to kind of scan to see these. And I'm like, you made this, I can tell you made that design decision because you really wanted. And when I spoke to like the team, they talked about this. They're like, we really want people to feel like, oh, I'm hanging out here and like, I'm by the Belfry or I'm by downtown or I'm by the bank. But I'm like, you did not do anything in your game to give me that relationship with the city, but you want me to have the relationship. So you're making me pretend that I have that relationship and I don't, because you failed to craft a context for me to have that. And so much of this game is that kind of failure. And then the last thing I really want to point out is there are difficulty spikes like crazy in this game, and the leveling gets crazy as well, where at one point I was constantly lower level and I'd have to go and grind some things just to have to grind later to unlock things. So it just felt so extra. The separate villain quest lines like Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze, like etc. Those get so hard where it does feel, for most of the game does feel like a normal single player game. But for those parts, I'm like, I can tell you want me to have a second person and I don't. And for that reason, this quest is hell. I turned it on very easy and sometimes still struggled with stuff. The end boss is ridiculously hard, even on very easy. And then also where the story goes is like awful as well. So it's like everything.
Oh no, that was going to be my question was going to be like, is the Court of Owls stuff fun?
Court of Owls I do think is cool, but like, and I'm sure we can dig into more details. But the last thing I want to say is just that I don't recommend this game. I don't think anyone should play it. I think if it comes to Game Pass, don't play it. Don't bother. It's not a good game. My boyfriend also finished it. He hated it. It's not good. And I know some people now you're more interested. Whatever, you do what you do with your life. Don't tell me I didn't send you there. Don't go play this game.
It is weird. It's like I have that same instinct.
The credits have the song. The Live in La Vida Loca song plays in the credits.
Well, that's just fun. I will defend any game using that song at any point, absolutely, until my grave. But it is weird.
Honestly, that part in the game has been the highlight for me. So far.
Okay, all right.
The prison riot part, I was like, okay, this is actually kind of different. It was. Like the combat was the same as the combat is everywhere in the game, but at least it had a bit of a different vibe, and I appreciated that. I also thank you, Janet, for bringing up the Saints Row comparison, because that was my first couple hours. I was like, this is not broken like that game, but there's like just a little bit of jank and a little bit like the way the animations just kind of stumble into one another sometimes. It was I had the exact same impression of that, like, oh, I went into this expecting just like more smooth gameplay than what I'm being delivered, and that's not what I expected from this developer, and it's not what I expected from this generation of game. And it's just that instantly kicked it down a notch. And all the progression stuff were the questions that I had that I was hoping you could tell me was going to get better, but obviously it doesn't.
It's just so wild to jump into this game and like have that moment of, wow, it's another open world Gotham. Like, not that long ago, this would be mind blowing. And then at that moment, it's kind of like running around the city for a bit, and it's like, yeah, it's just, I guess we're beyond that as an industry. Like, yeah, open world Gotham, but what have you done for me lately? Like, can you give me anything interesting in this open world Gotham? And the answer is not really, based on my limited experience, at least, which is just bizarre.
I'm gonna play some more.
Okay, yeah, please do.
If you guys finish it, like, let me know. I just want to know what's. I want to see. I like seeing it break people. Not gonna lie.
I love Batman enough where I will play a little more, but I am sad to hear how down you guys are on it.
The Court of Owls is just an inherently intriguing concept, and I'm like, I want those owl masks so bad.
The co-op angle. There's people watching live the Backstage Pass here saying like, "Oh, is the co-op fun?" Janet, I mean, you actually played some co-op. I mean,
yeah, I did. I did. Took a little picture about the burger joint with my boyfriend.
Oh, that's cute. I mean, did that improve it? If people are looking for like a co-op Arkham-esque, but not Arkham experience, like, is it something for them?
I always have the same comment, and people never like to hear it. I don't think co-op makes any, like, so many games where they're like, well, if you play with a friend, y'all, that's not because the game's good. That's because you like your friend, and that's fine.
Yes.
Like, I inherently did have more fun playing with my boyfriend. But also I disliked this game so much that once it was done, I was like, once I beat it, because I'm like, I'm gonna go do my own game for a while, and I like dropped out of his game and did mine, and I was like, yeah, Isaiah, I'm not coming back. This is all you, baby. You run with it
on your own.
And I kind of felt bad because I do know he had a worse experience, I think, because I wasn't there, because at least then, we could divide up some stuff, and like, I think they do a lot of actually really smart things with how they integrate co-op. Like, you gain like I'll get XP from one part of the city, and he'll gain that little bit of XP, and like, he said he doesn't blame me for not jumping back to finish it. He just woke up himself. But yeah, like, and I love that you can be in totally different places, and unfortunately, that is what caused the 30 FPS lock. If you were following that discourse. So, like, there's so many smart decisions they made with it, but ultimately it still doesn't, again, the game's not fun to play, so, or it's not a good game, so I'm not gonna say it is better, but that's because I like my boyfriend. Like, if you have someone you like, I'm sure you'll have more fun with them because of them.
And how would you review your boyfriend on the Pen to Pixels review scale?
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. 5
out of 5, man. Don't let it go to his head. He just left the room.
Janet, how does Robin's traversal work? And is it interesting? Does it feel good? Is it fun?
Robin's his secondary. So everyone has the same primary traversal of like the what would you call that?
The grapple hook.
The grappling hook, right?
Yeah.
It's like you zoop up, His secondary is really weird because it's a teleportation device, which is like inherently boring to use. Like, I remember like showing the preview footage, like when I did the preview, kind of funny, and they're like, "Oh my god, this looks awful," and I'm like, "It's not fun, no," but it is useful, and it's easier to control than other ones. I think the best secondary traversal, if you're looking for it, would be from Nightwing, because he has just a little. I'm blanking on the name. God, what you call it? It's like a little. He has a glider, and the glider never stops. You can ride that thing endlessly. It doesn't have any cooldown. It doesn't have anything.
Sounds
but
good.
I saw like my boyfriend played as Nightwing. I didn't really like Nightwing as much. Granted, so the game is all based on these momentum abilities you have. Like, you have your primary combat, but then as you chain combos, you unlock your momentum ability, which is like a special attack that you can do, and it has cooldowns and stuff. I didn't really like his momentum abilities as much. He had stuff like a healing shield and other stuff. Again, maybe would work better in a 2-player thing, but like, he didn't seem to like them that much. But also, I'm like, watching him play, I'm like, you gotta use your momentum abilities more. I really like the momentum abilities I had as Robin, and I love the number one thing I liked about Robin is that you can unlock an ability to do takedowns, silent takedowns on heavy enemies, and that was like super key. So I do think that is the big stealth differentiator for Robin specifically. So I really like that, and that's why I was Batgirl for like 6 hours or something, and then I switched to Robin, and then I just like, Robin till the wheels fell off. So yeah, Robin's cool.
Yeah, it's because Batgirl basically has Batman's cape, and I don't know if I'm just misremembering the old games, but it doesn't feel as good to me, and part of it is that you move really slow with it. And the other big impression thing that I wanted to point out is that Bat Cycle sucks so bad, and when you're driving it at max speed, it feels like you're driving it at like the speed limit of Gotham City, because it's it's revving like you're going 100 miles an hour, and they put like the speed streaks on the side of the screen to show that you're going fast. But then you are like barely passing taxis on the screen. like you can tell that you're going like 30 miles an hour, and it makes me wonder if there's like a weird, like, we can't load the rest of the city fast enough for you to go any faster with these traversal abilities or something. Because otherwise, I don't understand why the bat cycle is so damn slow.
Unless there's like upgrades for it.
No, there's not upgrades for it. Also, other things that I don't like, the cosmetics are sometimes a little convoluted. Like, I really want it. You can unlock like different colors to the bat cycle, but they're like super, like how do you do it? There's nothing in the game tells you. And I think it's from like some of the random like challenge things that are in the open world. I like the bat cycle. Like, I like the feel of the bat cycle at least, but JeffM, you're totally right. It actually is going really slow. I never thought about it. And now it's like glass shattered. One thing my boyfriend pointed out while he was playing was like, a lot of these little details are missing from the game. Like when you're riding the bat cycle, like you're stiff as a board. Like there's no movement on like your body. There's no like anything. You're not like it. And then too, when you're standing still, he pointed out that it doesn't topple over at all. You're just standing on it, even though it's like it just stays upright, even though you're not moving.
As The Simpsons once said, stop, it's already dead. Please.
Well, if I don't get to do this, what did I do this for? You know what I mean?
I totally get it. I cannot imagine.
And I know some of y'all, hate me because that's just facts, but like I'm like, this is for the content. Like,
you're right.
I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to have a really thorough, like, I know this game back in the 4s. I previewed it. I reviewed it.
It's
I
ridiculous.
watched my boyfriend play it.
It's ridiculous.
Like, I did this, whole through line. And I have nothing to do with this information because we're never going to talk about this game again. So,
well, I mean, you can do a max spoilers with the community about it or something. You could have people call in. There's some folks in the community that are enjoying it. But, okay, Gotham Knights, everybody. Maybe stay away. Probably stay away. Kyle, did you see the news that Rocksteady's founders left the studio?
Yeah, Sefton Hill is out.
Sefton Hill
I didn't read
Jamie.
the full letter. Did you read the full note?
It's interesting. Yeah, so Rocksteady posts this. Obviously, the originators of the Arkham series are working on Suicide Squad right now. But it's an odd letter where it's going on and on about their contributions and they're leaving. And Suicide Squad's in great hands, though. It's looking great. And talking about the new studio leadership and stuff, but then it says, but we should let these people speak for themselves. And then there's like 2 paragraphs at the bottom of the letter, just real quick, where it's like, it's been an honor. Suicide Squad's looking great. Goodbye. Which is weird because then like also, at least as of the time of this recording, those guys haven't like posted on their own Twitter feed yet. So it is a little bit weird to be like, well, let them speak for themselves. But here's a letter from us first and foremost. So who knows? They'll probably go off and start a new studio. I mean, Sefton Hill, quietly, I think one of the most effective creative directors product-wise, like there's definitely, don't forget, there's been a lot of stories of Rocksteady not being a wonderful place for women to work for 1,000 different reasons. And I'm not pointing fingers directly at them for this or anything, but just something to keep in mind that the studio that's had a lot of culture issues that several people at the top, the founders, are leaving. And so I'm curious to see where that goes from here. But it's Suicide Squad. I'm curious to see if even the reception, if like...
I heard it's in good hands.
That's right. But like, can they learn anything from Gotham Knights' release? Like, it's nice how much...
this timeline.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing too. Like, someone, asked me, which this was like a really funny question. And I felt kind of bad for like laughing at it because I know people just don't know. But they during my preview, they're like, is there anything they can do to like fix some of your complaints before the release? I'm like, no, it's out in like 2 weeks. And I'm definitely not a development expert, so I don't really know how like all of those timeline works. And obviously you can like push things back, but there's like one of the conversations going around on the internet regarding Gotham Knights and games like it, or like why games maybe don't come out super hot all the time, is like a decision was probably made many years ago and many good people probably worked really hard to even get in the state that it's in. So it's like, I think whatever they have, and hopefully what they have is good.
Yeah, we'll see when Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League comes out. But all right, there we go. Let's close the bet book. Janet, thank you for being here. Thank you for playing through that. Thank you for living the experience that all of us only dream of finishing a game like Gotham Knights and wake up early.
Yes, thank you for waking me up.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you ever want me to call you to wake you up in the future, just let me know. It's kind of a fun
Hanson
thing.
Wake up call. I was so many, I'll talk to you about it later. So many things went through my head. I was like, Is someone hurt? What's going on?
Oh, God. No, everything's fine. But thanks for being here, Janet. Do you want to clap out? Mm-hmm. Bye. Kelsey Lewin, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Nice to have you. God, we could go 1,000 different directions. Based on you had a tweet, a scathing tweet about the state of the industry the other day, where you just said, hey, we should be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 more.
And I was wondering what you were referencing. That got quote tweeted, I realized last night, by the voice actor for the main character.
Really?
Of Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Nice.
Now you see how the Twitter feedback loop works, because now Kelsey's going to do nothing but talk about, we should talk about Gotham Knights more. We should talk about Saints Row more.
I'm riding high on that.
Yeah, that's good. Do you think there are thousands of people listening that are with you, that are screaming, that are angry that I didn't play more than those opening hours, which I enjoyed? What is it? What is it about the game that you think we aren't talking about enough without spoiling anything?
It's just a really long, really good RPG. So it's never going to get the basically, I mean, what I was really referring to is this is going to get left out of Game of the Year discussions because this is a difficult game to invest your time in.
Yep.
And I mean, I'll be here. I'll be fighting tooth and nail for it here.
Oh,
but
God.
I feel like it's just, the Game Awards is probably going to totally snub it, kind of thing. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. We're
There's
just...
RPG category, right?
Is there an RPG category? I don't know if there is.
But doesn't that always feel like so that you guys can shut up, we moved your category over here. You're not going to be in contention for Game of the Year. Exactly. But we have to we have to make sure that you guys don't feel like no one plays these games.
Yeah, I mean, how far are you? Because it's broken up into chapters, right? Do you have a rough sense of where you're at for this one?
I am in chapter 6, and I am 70 hours into the game or something like that. And I've been doing a ton of side quests. I don't think it's... And I think there's only one more chapter after this.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing.
Sure.
My impression, we probably talked about it last time we talked about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on the podcast, was okay, maybe it's not as long as I was fearing. But then hearing people talk about it on a podcast, I don't know if it's just only the completionists are the ones that are talking about it. But, on 8.4 podcast, somebody over there was I sunk 160 hours into it. And I was okay, there's just no universe. As much as I would love to spend more time with this game, I think I just have to admit defeat.
I did 150 in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but that had a lot more I don't know, that one felt more like I should do some, there's a bunch of characters to unlock in that one.
Yeah.
And then in this one, there are some characters to unlock, and there's, basically they designate quests by a yellow marker, which is you should probably do this one if you care about this world and this story.
Right.
And then the blue ones, which are I don't know, collect some stuff. It's not that important.
Yeah. So is the story or the gameplay gripping you more as you continue to blast through
the
this
story.
Story.
I mean, the gameplay is it gets better every time in this series, but in a game that long, it's gonna get repetitive.
Yeah.
Shango Congo in the comments says, I unlocked all of them and it took me 230 hours.
So that was Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
In 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave up on actually completing 2. I was this is... It became... Because it's like a gacha game in a way. And so you get to a point where you're just I don't want to do that anymore. That's...
Charlie Hunter wrote in over on Patreon and said, I'm so happy Kelsey is here to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 more. It's hard for me to talk about this game without rambling forever or going full spoiler, so I'll just say, it rules. Game of the Year 2022. Also, Kelsey, who is your favorite party member?
Uni. By far. Yeah, she's hilarious.
Is she the one with the rings?
No, she's... you didn't play at all. Oh my God.
I did, but it was months ago. We talked about everything that I played through.
She's the one with the wings on her head. She's the Entia.
Okay.
She's the sarcastic bitch. She's great.
Okay, that sounds good. And then they ask, what is your favorite combat bark? I don't know if that means least favorite inherently.
Oh. Oh no, I kind of hate all of them at this point. It's too many hours into the game.
Whew. All right, yeah, we can't complain. We're trying to raise up a Xenoblade Chronicles here, especially after all that Gotham Knights talk. JeffM might have you a surprise for us.
No, I don't.
I was counting on you to save us.
I didn't. You said because I'm going to start playing it, and you said, "Hey, Kelsey's been wanting to talk about it, so that would be good to choose it." I didn't realize you meant the next day. I didn't realize you meant today's
You didn't finish
podcast.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Come on, man, we're counting on you.
Jeff, I've got 70 hours in it. I think you can do that in like 4 days if you try really hard.
If you really care.
4 years, yeah. So is this one of those JRPGs where it's like, when does it start getting good?
It's almost good. It's almost immediately.
Yep, absolutely.
Like it is. Yeah, it doesn't have that. Like the story is immediately interesting and it gets better.
Would like streaming the opening of it be good, or is it still too much like?
I think it'd be good. It has a pretty action focused opening.
I mean, the beginning of the game has, like tutorials and stuff like any game, and especially since this is I look at a screenshot of a battle happening in this sometimes and I'm like, oh god, this is a mess. Like I can read this because I've been playing this, but it looks like a mess. So in order to understand all of that nonsense, like it's a little tutorial heavy in the beginning, but other than that, I mean, it is immediately a good game.
Stream it, JeffM, stream it.
I'll do it.
Awesome. Okay, so you're going to stream that. I'm going to finish Elden Ring, and then Kelsey's going to finish Live Alive so we can finally record that Max Spoilers about Live Alive.
Okay.
All right. And handshaking deal. Let's make content.
Blood pact on that?
That's right. Also, Kelsey, you wanted to talk about the retro game convention. Was it Portland Retro? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing that this audience cares that much about, but since I did start my Collector Corner show here, and it seems to be getting, pretty decent feedback, I just thought, I don't know, for the people who aren't familiar with retro game conventions, maybe a little bit of like, what are they? And like, why should you go? Why should you care about them?
Yeah, totally. So Portland, is it one of the biggest, or how would you compare it?
Portland is, I think it's kind of like the flagship one, which I know is kind of a strange place for being the flagship retro game convention. And it really just comes down to like, that's where the most passionate people happen to be. And they, they've been running this convention for, 15-ish years, plus or minus a little bit. So it's been quite a while, maybe even a little bit longer. The first retro gaming conventions go back to, I'm not joking, to 1999, which is kind of wild, right?
That's funny.
Like that there was a concept of retro gaming,
right?
In
and now for the retro games,
it's just Atari at that point,
right? Now you could cover the old retro gaming conventions at the new retro gaming conventions. That's how that works. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the people who started that very first one, Atari World, I think is what it was originally called, and then it became Classic Gaming Expo. Those are the guys that run the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, Texas now.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw the Patreon write-up over there for the Video Game History Foundation talking about this, the Portland thing, where it seems like Pac-Man was kind of the star of the show. Like, you all set up a bunch of Pac-Man stuff?
Yeah, so the Video Game History Foundation does their, like, little pop-up museum exhibit every year at the show, which is basically they just give us a big room right across from the convention hall, and we turned it into a little exhibit. And they asked us in 2020 if for that year we could celebrate the 40th anniversary of Pac-Man. That year didn't happen, obviously. But in 2022, luckily, it's the 40th anniversary of Miss Pac-Man.
Perfect.
So we just kind of combined the two.
Even better.
The two concepts. Yeah, they could reuse all the art that they commissioned and all of that stuff. So, just collect, like, we have a collection of some stuff from our archives that we use in that, but mostly we're kind of like channeling collectors to come up with an exhibit that uses I don't want to be the biggest Pac-Man collector in the world. That's expensive. So we use some of the people that already have huge collections, and then to tell the story of Pac-Man through words and artifacts and videos and that sort of thing.
I would like to meet the Pac-Man community, because it's like, okay, is this just a bunch of Mitchell. What's that guy's name? The high score guy. Help me out.
Billy
Mitchell types.
Is it a bunch of Billy Mitchells?
Well, it's like I'm trying to understand because it's all like you can't really get into the lore, so they just are so into the gameplay, but not specifically the high score chasing, just collecting Pac-Man merch. Like that is such a specific niche. I don't know what that fan looks like really.
It's the first video game mascot character to really take off. You know, like it's the first game to really have a real mascot. So it's the first one that started getting merch in a major way.
And I guess like it was the first with cutscenes, right? Doesn't Miss Pac-Man technically have that distinction?
Yeah, I struggle with firsts. I think so.
Okay.
But like, it's confusing. You can always find like some guy in a lab who did it first. Kind of thing.
And then Ron Gilbert from LucasArts technically invented the word cutscene. So it's like, it's all over the place for first in that arena. You said there were like, or the post said that there were original developers of Miss Pac-Man at the show?
Yeah. Kevin Curran and Steve Golson, who were some of the people. I don't know if you know any Miss Pac-Man history, but it was some MIT people, not Japan. Had nothing to do with Japan. It was some guys out of MIT who were making conversion kits for arcade machines that were like, okay, our Missile Command machine has gotten kind of stale. People aren't really playing it anymore. It's like, well, what if we made it harder? And then it's like, you know, an extreme version of Missile Command. And they would sell that to arcades. And then, so that's what Miss Pac-Man started as, was just and it is a faster version of Pac-Man. But yeah, they were like, we will make a conversion kit for Pac-Man. And then you can turn your Pac-Man machine that's like maybe lagging a little bit into like this exciting new Pac-Man machine. And
sorry, you don't need to give the full history, although you're good at doing it. But like the Crazy Otto, I know that, isn't that the name? Was that the name for the conversion?
That was the original, the original conversion kit. And then Namco was like, why don't we work together? I don't think it happened exactly like that, but eventually they worked with Namco and they came up with Miss Pac-Man instead of an entirely new Pac character.
But then the rights for that there wasn't enough paperwork or something, so now Miss Pac-Man is just kind of lost in the void of time because we have to go with Pac-Mom or whatever?
The licensing rights of Miss Pac-Man are crazy because At Games owns some of the license, and there's still royalties that have to be paid out to like Kevin Curran for using Miss Pac-Man. And I think the actual, like, the closer to the truth explanation is Namco's just like, that's annoying and expensive and I don't want to touch it.
So please, Pac-Mom, everybody. But then like in all these Pac-Man collections, like Miss Pac-Man isn't included. But then hang on.
Yeah, because there's still licensing that they have to pay out, licensing and royalties they have to pay out to like other people. So I think they're just avoiding doing that because you're still going to buy the Namco collection if you're going to buy the Namco collection.
Yeah. So what are these conventions like for you? Are there a lot of folks that are coming? You can kind of just make the case for the Video Game History Foundation again and again?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a space to like do something that provides value to this show and then also just kind of be there to explain what we do and answer questions and that sort of thing. So we just have a little booth set up inside the museum to basically just be stationed at and talk to people all weekend.
Yeah.
But as for someone who's just like a fan of retro games, there's so much at these conventions. Maybe not at all of them. Like I said, Portland's kind of like the flagship one. But, huge vendor hall. So if you are into kind of browsing retro games and seeing rare stuff on the floor, or just, there's a little bit of a sort of artist alley thing there too. It's a fun little vendor hall. But if you're not into game collecting and you just kind of like retro games, they have a huge free play arcade set up with pinball and all kinds of machines and stuff. And then they always have a bunch of really, really good panels and talks. Like they'll have developers going all the way back to the Atari days and kind of everything in between that'll just talk about, their experience, and you can just raise your hand and ask them whatever questions you feel like. And then like YouTubers and that sort of thing too. So it's a good mix of like historically interesting and like guy I like on the internet.
Yeah. All right. Can you give us top 3 retro conventions in the US at least?
Oh, that's so hard.
Rank them definitively.
I don't want to rank them.
You have to. I'm sorry.
Portland is my favorite.
Okay.
I really enjoyed Midwest Gaming Classic that I went to earlier this year.
Is that Wisconsin?
That is in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys could totally go.
I know. We should next year for sure.
Yeah.
When is it normally?
Ooh, May-ish, I think, April or May.
Great. We're there. Kyle?
Yeah.
Book a flight. We're going to Wisconsin. And then
I really don't know. I'm gonna hurt so many feelings because I've been to so many of these, and they're gonna be like, "You didn't pick mine." I'm gonna say one that I'm gonna say one that I actually haven't been to because I just keep hearing it's the best one, which is Long Island Retro Gaming Expo.
Okay.
It's inside of the Museum of Aerospace and Flight or something like that, and so they'll have
weird.
like lunar lander set up next to a lunar lander. Like
that's good, and they can talk about like space lore and stuff. Oh, yeah. That's perfect.
I really want to go to that one. That's like one of the few I haven't been to. I think almost all of them are worth going to, but if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or something, and I'll tell you if that one's the dud. We don't have a Seattle Retro Gaming Expo anymore, but that one was not doing so hot.
Oh, really?
Towards the end there. So.
That's a bummer.
I'll be honest with you.
All right, appreciate it. Hey, Kyle, do you know what is doing hot?
Is it the website where people subscribe to our
right,
content?
warmer. If you're watching the video version, it's in the lower right hand side of the screen.
Is it Patreon?
That's right, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thank you everybody for checking out that website. That is how we exist. That is how this show has existed and continued to grow for 3 years. It's what allowed us to bring on more voices like Kelsey Lewin. So please go there, find the tier that's right for you, and please help thank some of our bigger supporters, people like Leader Games. They want everybody to know about Ahoy, which is a new tabletop game, technically shipping in November, but Ahoy, it's a game of seafaring and smuggling, JeffM.
Nice.
This is from the thank you, the alley-oop they call it. But this is from the creators of Root, which is one of the most beloved games, and it's very well known for an asymmetrical design, and that's very much the cool thing about Ahoy as well, where it's a more accessible version of a game like Root, but the idea is you can play 2 to 4 players. 2 players, you're controlling the seas, controlling territory. It's a pirate game, right? Smuggling, all this good stuff. And then the 3rd and 4th player, as you add them, they are smuggling stuff around the map, which changes the values of the territory that the first 2 people are controlling. The art is fantastic. Please check it out. We've given out copies each and every week throughout the month, thanks to Leader Games for supporting us in a big way. And so we have 1 more copy of Ahoy to give out, only for folks in the US. I'm very sorry, but follow MinnMax on Twitter at MinnMax Show, and we will have a tweet that you could retweet to win a copy of Ahoy. So please help support them. There's a link below if you want to check out that tabletop game. Hey, Kyle.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Raycon?
No.
JeffM, have you ever heard of Raycon?
Of course I have, but you should tell everyone else.
That's right. Well, their copy starts with, you've probably heard of Raycon, which are the headphones, everybody, the headphone company. They say in the 5 years since Raycon's launch, they've become known for a few things: all-day comfort, a perfect fit, an impressive battery life, and of course, premium sound at affordable prices. Which is why we're excited to share that a new player has entered the game. They want everybody to know about Raycon's gaming series. They ship these things out. So, gaming earbuds, which crack that open, put them in. Immediately, I was struck. I have like the, I thought they were the nice like Apple earbuds or whatever. And then just blasting these was like, oh, there can actually be like bass in earbuds. Like it sounds so much better. It's like, okay, even for podcasts, Kyle, you can listen to our voices, but it'll just blast into your ears. And I hear that also music will play out of these. But then also, they have the gaming headphones as well, which I really put them through their paces. So I got this thing, and then I played Gotham Knights with them, and then jumped immediately over to like the big official Sony headset as well. I was like, oh, these sound great. It's nice to have like the high-end comparison ready to go. But Raycon, everybody, they have those 2 different options. They want you to know that it can seamlessly pair with all major platforms with the click of a button, which is true. I was very impressed hooking up to PS5. I was like, oh, that is just right there, ready to go. They say the optimized gaming mic focuses on your voice and blocks out noise, and you can use these for music and podcasts, of course, in addition to gaming. But yeah, starting up or just opening these up, the earbuds. Kyle, guess what the battery life is on these suckers?
20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Nay, 31 hours. 31-hour battery life. It is ridiculous. I was really impressed by that. Yeah, and then the gaming headphones as well. The nice thing, it has like the retractable mic. So you can pull it out and then push it back in when you're not using it and stuff, so you don't have some dangly thing around there. It lights up, it's got all this funky stuff, but it sounds great. Raycon, everybody, you can check it out. There's a link below. And they say, as always, you can get a 30-day Raycon happiness guarantee with free shipping and returns, no questions asked. And they want everybody to know that you can go to buyraycon.com/MinnMax today to get 15% off of your Raycon order. You'll also get $20 off Raycon's gaming earbuds or $10 off their gaming headphones. It's buyraycon.com/MinnMax to score 15% off and even more savings. Buyraycon.com/MinnMax, everybody. Plus, in October, they have a special pricing so you can get up to $20 off. There's discounts up the wazoo. There's links below. You can use the promo code MinnMax to get even more off. And thank you to our supporters, our old friends, I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the Quest for Stale Gum. This is an I Am 8-Bit exclusive cartridge. This game is out now. It is out on many platforms, but the cool thing about this is it's actually released on an old NES cartridge as well, which functions. All these fake indie developers that are making like these throwback games, I Am 8-Bit's actually making a game that you can literally run on an old NES, so you can play the old Garbage Pail Kids game, which is new but designed to look like a throwback, and it's very funky. So you can check that out, everybody. It is out now. Giant Bombs, Drew Scanlon is a producer on this game. It's got a cool pedigree. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And you can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store, and you can use the promo code Cereal Monsters. Cereal Monsters for 10% off of everything under $100. No space in that, and cereal as in breakfast. So please check that out and help support I Am 8-Bit by following the link below, because they support us in a big way and the community in a big way by shipping out a prize each and every week to whoever submits the best question over on Patreon. So this week, whoever submits the best question over on Patreon, and you can submit a question if you're even at that $5 or the $2 tier, even over on Patreon. But whoever submits the best one this week is winning We Are OFK on PS5, a physical version of We Are OFK, which is very cool. All right, Kyle, ready to go?
I'm ready.
Great. You want to read the first question?
The first question is...
Are you actually pulling something for this? Hang on.
What games are you scared to start? I don't know who to attribute these to or anything.
Yeah, you're good. Hey, you got there, man. No, of course it's Nate Dogg, Kyle. Come on, man. Nate Dogg says, hey, Ben and crew, the near photorealistic depictions of Amsterdam in the new Call of Duty lit up the internet earlier this week. Growing up, I distinctly remember being similarly wowed by the promotional materials of games like Command & Conquer, Unreal, and Max Payne. Am I nuts? Do any of you have any memories of thinking this is as good as it gets for video game graphics? If so, what were the games?
I have a good story for this one.
Please.
Just for this exact crowd, which is Game Informer's coverage of Final Fantasy X.
Ooh.
So I remember opening that magazine, and there was some line in there about how they had animated hair. Like they had, I don't think it was literal like individual hairs, but it was like they had animated like, you know, individual hair pieces or something. And I was just like, well, that's it. Where do you go from individual hairs? I mean, we've solved gaming, so that's
it's so funny then to think back on Final Fantasy X, where it's like maybe hair was moving a little bit. Like I guess Yuna's hair in the cutscenes did look really good.
It's the cutscenes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I think beyond
Anyways,
that,
Game Informer convinced me that that was as good as it was going to get.
God, which magazine was it? Was it PC Gaming that had that on the cover? It's like, yes, this is a real screenshot from Unreal Tournament.
Unreal,
yeah,
right?
And it's just like the jankiest looking thing you've ever seen in your life. I think for me, the first mind blower was like, I think this might be as good as we can get. Was PS2 the launch of PS2 playing Tekken Tag Tournament, and specifically it was the lighting on like the wooden floorboards in Tekken Tag Tournament. I was like, I cannot imagine anything looking better than that. And I may be stubborn, but I stand by it. Tekken Tag Tournament is still the '1 best looking game ever made. Yeah. So,
I mean, that generation in particular, I feel like was when that was like the last, maybe not the last, I guess, but like the biggest jump, you know, to go from like 32 and 64 up to like PS2 and GameCube and Xbox. Like,
well,
Smash Brothers Melee was one, which is not a realistic looking game, but just I was like, yeah, this looks incredible, you know, a Resident Evil remake and stuff like that.
Yeah, or even thinking like, I mean, Remember when we first saw Brawl and you could like see the texture of denim on the Mario model in Brawl? I was like, oh my God, look what the Wii can do. Now it's rough.
My answer is even older. And I think I may have shared this story before, but when Donkey Kong Country came out, because they made such a big deal about like they, 3D modeled the characters or whatever, and then turned that into, super bad sprites or whatever. My cousins were over, and one of my cousins had to borrow his brother's glasses just to stare. Like he took his brother's glasses and put them on. And he stared at the screen because those sprites were so amazing. Which also just raised a lot of questions of like, wait, are you blind all other times that you're?
You can see better.
And how does your brother's prescription work with your eyes? That's just confusing.
The story's full of holes. Virgil B writes in and says, I'm slowly chipping away at Horizon Zero Dawn and I find myself hesitant to outright destroy some of the machine animals I come across. Seems like they're just there and I don't have a real reason to fight them. Meanwhile, I see a behemoth in Final Fantasy. It's getting killed on sight. Are there some enemies that give you pause before fighting them? Do enemy designs ever have an effect on your willingness to fight them?
Dogs.
I never want to kill it. Yeah, exactly.
It's
You never
just
want to kill a dog.
Dogs.
Yeah.
The dogs in Ghosts of Tsushima I always felt really bad about. They're like these big they're big fluffy bear-looking dogs. Like, I don't want to hit you with a sword.
They're too cute. Yeah.
I feel like sort of Earthbound and Earthbound inspired kind of enemies are always a weird one too. It's like you're beating someone up because they're like a hippie. It's just like a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ask questions about it. Yeah, you could call your parents and ask for advice. Yeah, but they're just going to say, you need to go around town and just beat up the hippies. You know how the game is played. JeffM, what about you? Are you a cold-blooded killer? You can tell us if you are.
Dogs.
It's dogs.
I try to avoid the dogs as much as I can. Usually most animal creatures, although some of them are passive too, which I never enjoy hunting.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to do it unless I need the resources, and then I'm just going to, like the buffaloes, I'm just going to wipe out everything on the map.
Well, I remember you just played Shadow of the Colossus for the first time not too long ago. I'm trying to remember, like, how guilty were you feeling about taking those down? Do they count as animals, or are they too much stone and moss?
I mean, if I didn't know kind of like the entire thrust of the game, and it's very contrived in that game. Like, I know what you're doing to me, so I don't feel quite as bad as you want me to feel bad.
Right. You want to come to it naturally. You want to have your own epiphany about it.
Yeah.
Connor writes in and says, this question is specifically for Ben, so if everybody else could just be quiet a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Age of Mythology remaster? Very exciting times for the Age of Mythology dorks this week. They announced Age of Mythology... That's right. Age of Mythology Retold. It was during the Age of Empires 25th anniversary live stream, and it was just kind of a CG trailer. And it's like the entire Age series is in such a weird spot that as this trailer was unfolding, it was just every nightmare scenario was rolling through my head of like, is this going to be like some MOBA? Is this going to be some mobile game? Is this going to be a card thing? How are they going to blow it?
It's NFTs.
Yeah, Age of Mythology is now an NFT. Everybody please buy. No, so it seems like it is just the definitive edition of Age of Mythology, which they re-released on Steam back in 2016, I think, which was amazing to have like a new player base and a rejuvenation of that game because it was getting pretty long in the tooth for the original version. And now this is going to be like what they did for Age of Empires 2 of like, hey, we made the water look better and improve the physics and all this stuff. We're going to do that for Age of Mythology, which, Kyle, I don't know if you're aware of this, is actually one of the greatest games of all time.
I've never heard that from anyone that I talk to on a weekly basis.
Would you ever play Age of Mythology with me, Kyle? Could I teach you the ropes on an RTS like that? It's just a good time. You like mythology? You're Mr. God of War. You can play the Greek. You can play the Norse. You're primed. You're ready to go.
That's what I like about God of War. Yeah, just the references.
Yeah, you're obsessed with those gods. Anyways, yeah, no release on that thing, but I'm very excited for it.
I was going to say, if anyone wants to see, like professional example of faking it, they should watch our reaction to that stream that we recorded yesterday, because people told you about it in our new show plus, and you were like, okay, let's film a reaction to it.
Wait, are you serious? That is not how that went down at all. It's check out the archive for New Show Plus. So we're doing a New Show Plus. We're playing Dreams, and then at the end, people were like, "Age of Empires 20th anniversary. You should watch the stream. You should watch the stream." So I didn't know what it was going to be. I was like, oh, Age of Empires is on
saying
Xbox?
My reaction to it, Hanson. I don't know what Age of Mythology is.
I thought you were saying they told me what the announcement was and I was faking it.
No,
I was very excited. Okay,
no, it was me being as polite as possible and trying not to harsh your buzz with what is Age of Mythology.
Someday, the world should. Someday I'll get everybody into it. It'll be great. Jared R. Meyer, and I know when that day is. It's when Age of Mythology Retold comes out that we can do the deepest dive. But Jared R. Meyer writes in and says, hey, everyone, I don't really have a question today so much as a grievance. This is a good place to submit your grievances, everybody. Yeah. The Pokemon Company revealed a new Pokemon named Greavard. If you haven't already, please do yourself a favor and look up this Best of the Boys. Quote, paying it even the slightest bit of attention will make it so overjoyed that this dog-like Pokemon will follow you anywhere, says Pokemon's official website. Quote, however, don't play with it too long because Greavard will slowly and inadvertently drain the life force of those around it. What kind of monkey paw nonsense is this? Yeah, that's tough, Jared.
I love those Pokemon descriptions that are just like quietly very dark. You know, they only get like 2 or 3 sentences, but they get a lot of darkness out of some of those.
Yep, it feels like a
lot of ghost Pokemon. They like steal children and steal your life force through your dreams and
wear
stuff.
Their mother's skulls.
Well,
right?
yeah. It seems like it'd be one of those things that would like fade with time with Pokemon, and that all the Pokedex entries should just be like, they're cute. You can collect them. But I love that they're keeping up that streak of like, no, some are just weird and dark and messed up if you really want to read the fine text on what's happening here. Kelsey, scale of 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to Violet and Scarlet? Where are you at these days?
Like a 7, and I think it's just because it feels very close. Like Arceus wasn't that long ago, you know? So I'm just kind of like, push it back like 6 or 7 months and I'd be higher on that tier list. But yeah, I don't know. I will play it. I don't know if I'm going to be like super excited, just ravenously devouring it. Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, it comes out in a couple weeks. It's weird to think about. Let's see. Rock Breathe Knock says, hey, what games are you scared to start because you know you'll get obsessed with them and not want to do anything else? Mine are anything from and Persona 5, which is now on Game Pass. Hey, that's true.
I have I'm currently playing God of War, I believe I can say. I think I'm saying that. But I really want to start the Resident Evil 8 DLC, but I'm like, I can't. Yeah. I gotta wait on that because like I'm really excited to see what happens in that DLC. Like if you finished Village, like it's kind of wild where the DLC is going.
Yeah, I saw somebody, I forget who it was on Twitter, they said that 8 DLC, which we'll probably talk about next week, but they said that there's a section in it that's scarier than like the second area from Resident Evil Village, which is shocking. Okay. I'm really curious to hear.
Yeah, I don't want to start it and stop it, right? I just want to like do it all in one go. So.
Yeah, for sure. Does anybody else have one they're scared to start?
Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, that's a great one. Absolutely.
I mean, most MMOs, but especially that one, just because of how many people are begging me to play it. I'm like, I know that the fact that you know that this is going to consume my life, like, is terrifying to
me. Sarah's fine. She's still a functional member of society.
She's still mostly human, I think. I've had that actually recently with a Marvel Snap. Like everyone's screaming about Marvel Snap. You know, we just had a Discord channel created about it. Gazi Garage even wrote in and said, I know there are a lot of games right now that are out, but Marvel Snap, everybody, it's here and it's great and it's not getting enough love. I've never been into a deck builder game before this one, but it has its hooks in me real bad. And that kind of falls in that camp of like, yeah, best case scenario, I play it and then get quote unquote addicted to it. Like, I don't know if that's a tempting thing. I've dabbled. I'm going through the tutorial, JeffM, and I don't think it's quite locked me in, but are you sucked into that thing?
No, I preemptively have stopped playing it.
Really?
For those reasons. Because I feel like I'm going to get to the point where there's a paywall of some sort, which may not even be in yet.
I don't think so.
But you know it's going to come. You know they're going to patch it in with some update or something.
I think they're banking on, you know, even what they push in the tutorial of like, oh, you can upgrade your cards and get like a 3D or basically a shiny version of them. And you seem like a logical fella that'd be immune to worrying about having a 3D Hulk card.
Yeah, I know. part of it, I think, and I don't want to, rain on anybody else's parade. It's great. Enjoy the games you want. But I've gotten to a point where I don't, philosophically, I just don't want to play games that are designed for whales. Even if I'm not a whale myself, I don't like whale games. Okay. And I feel like this, I don't know if it is. I don't know if the
seems
whales
like it's not. Everyone
buying every customization that they can get or whatever. But like that's still the model for it of like, we're going to give you as many microtransactions as you want to buy, knowing that some people are just going to buy every single one of them.
Yeah. People in the Backstage Pass tier are screaming it's all cosmetics though. Even then, still cosmetic whales freaks you out.
Yeah, I think it preys on some people who have we like to blame whales for their own behaviors. I think is what we do as a society, and for me, it falls into the same kind of situation as gambling, where some people can't help it, but when it comes to whale games, we're just okay with it, and we say, oh well, you don't have to do that. And we don't really acknowledge that the game is designed to make you want to do that. And for some people, that's a really hard thing. I know I'm not going to change like everyone's minds or change how game design works. But for me personally, I'd rather not help those.
Jeff, I totally appreciate that perspective. Like, especially with like loot boxes and that kind of thing. People, I feel like kind of dismiss them. But I'm like, there's like a moral issue here that I feel like sometimes we kind of bypass.
Yeah. And like, I don't buy them, and I don't have a problem with that. And I understand people from that perspective of like, well, you don't have to buy it, and it's easy not to buy it. But for some people, it really isn't. And I don't like that when like developers talk about that. There have been ones that are very open of like, yeah, like this game is funded by like some people who spend a ton of money on it, and that just kind of makes me worry about those people. Like it's not just millionaires who are like, yeah, I don't care, I have all the money, like I'm having a super fun time. Like for some people, that is a straight up addiction that they struggle with, and it causes problems for them. And personally speaking, I don't think that should be an economic model for game development.
Yeah.
This one has the Hulk in it though.
Yeah. And
Snap.
In lighter news, there's a bird on Kelsey's shoulder and it looks really cool. I done been.
Where'd that bird come from? I missed it.
It's been here the whole time.
Oh my god!
It's normally just a tail because he's kind of like kind of cuddling in there. He hurt his leg, so he's been doing a lot of just cuddling lately.
That's cute. I done been to writes and it says, missed joke opportunity. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. On the previous episode of the MinnMax show, when discussing the Silent Hill news from last week, Kyle mentioned that Bloober Team has the blueprints to make a very cool game, missing the opportunity to say they have the blueprints. And Kyle, I don't know if you'd like to formally apologize for not saying blueprints, but
I feel like you've been so on top. You've been so on top of making sure there aren't missed joke opportunities, and they still happen.
They squeak in.
I just
can't catch them all.
You've been doing a good job. I just want to recognize.
Thank you so much. I've been interrupting so many people on this podcast just to try and work in any possible pun, just so nobody will yell at us in the future episodes, but it's just not enough. Ampex Infinite writes in and says, last week was the worst time for Ben, the worst time for Ben to mix up Observer and Observation, two different games. Right after talking about Bloober Team games, he said that No Code made Stories Untold and Observer. It's funny how both those teams ended up working on Silent Hill games. So Observer and Observation are two different games, and now both those studios went on to make Silent Hill games, which is just asking for everybody to get super confused. But
yeah, that sounds like the plot of a future Silent Hill game.
Yep.
Just you've gone back to a town where two developers work on similarly titled games, and you just
stop.
And they just send you back and forth.
Come on, I know it's Halloween, but I'm scared. I'm scared. You got to stop talking. Seriously. Eric Reitz writes in and says, hello, crew. Better Quest goal alert. Lately, I found myself way too pressed for time to get anything done outside of the normal daily responsibilities. I really want to make time for writing and staying more present-minded, so to find that extra time, I'm going to wean myself off of the nightmare that is Twitter. The goal by the end of next month is to get down to a healthy 10 minutes a day. Does that sound like too much? That sounds great. 10 minutes a day.
Good goal.
That seems solid. I always get dinged by this by having timers on Twitter, but then there's a lot of just basic businessy stuff that happens in like DMs on Twitter and stuff. So having that timer when I'm trying to send a DM is like the most stressful thing, because I know I'm going to get locked out. So I have to write my messages like in Google Docs ahead of time, then copy and paste them over like a dweeb. But way to go, Eric. Yeah, get rid of Twitter, please. It's just more and more exhausting every day. I don't know if I'm just getting older or the discourse is changing or I follow the wrong people, but
it's getting worse.
Good Lord. Kyle,
but once Elon Musk owns it, it's going to be so much.
Then it's going to be supercharged. Going to the moon, baby. Kyle, do you get bummed out from Twitter?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Everyone gets bummed out from Twitter. That's like built into the platform, I think.
Okay.
I do have a very, like, I don't scroll the main feed much. Like, I look at, what did people react to what I say? Let me check my DMs.
I see how it is.
I don't really look at what's trending and stuff. Yeah. And that's a decent way to approach it. But
are those all pleasant? People are nice to you?
Yeah, I guess I'm pretty lucky that way. Or I just don't say anything really egregious or offensive that would make people get upset.
You just do the games are awesome tweet every 4 months. The coward's way out on Twitter. Kelsey, do you get a lot of hate on Twitter? You're a bigger person on there.
I'm always surprised by what ends up upsetting people. Like, and it's not like this was the vast majority or even a tiny, like it wasn't that many people. But like the tweet you referenced earlier where I was just like, I just feel like people should be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There are some people really angry.
Oh my God. What angle?
They're like, well, maybe if it wasn't such a long game and it Switch is a terrible console, and maybe if you did something better with your life. And I'm like, oh, okay.
All things that you have direct control over.
It's just, I mean, I know.
I like a video game.
I know people on Twitter complain a lot, and internet celebrities complain a lot, but just every once in a while, I just dare you, just look at the replies to a Jason Schreier tweet, any of them. Look at the replies to like an Ed Boon tweet and just get some sense of like people at that caliber and what they have to deal with every day. I mean, Jason Schreier is just, what he tweeted about, I don't remember what, some innocuous thing, and he just like was sharing a bunch of examples of like, here's just 4 people saying Jews should die after I tweeted out about the release date of this game. It's like, it's just their standard thing. What are you going to do? Joran says, yo, MinnMax crew, I just tried truff, which is spicy truffle sauce for the first time, and it was really good. I've never heard of that, but that sounds great. What are your go-to sauces and dips? Side note, extra hugs for Kelsey. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Go-to sauces and dips.
I like a good honey mustard.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Really?
Hell, we have the same taste in liquids. Is sauce a liquid? Sauce a liquid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. Does this count as
like a slime?
Does wasabi? That's a sauce, right? Would you count that as a sauce or a dip?
It's like a paste.
So paste? Can I lump that in?
Are you mixing it into soy sauce and like making a wasabi?
Maybe I should be, but this is, I don't know, where my thought went to, where it's like, just a couple weeks ago, I just had that epiphany of like, wait, I love wasabi. I am delighted every time I'm dying from eating too much wasabi. I think it's just, it's fun. It doesn't hurt the same way as other spicy things. Like it fades so quickly. It feels like a mint for your nose. Then I was like, I could just buy this. I forgot. And so I'm now delighted to have just a big tube of wasabi in my fridge, and I can just put it on everything. And then, my wife just looks at me confused as I'm like, like joking at the dinner table, and delighted. It's so good. It's so fun. It's so fun. Sausage dips. What else do we miss? JeffM, what do you got?
Nothing.
I don't like a
sauceless life.
When I eat buffalo wings, I dip them in ranch. Isn't that exciting?
Uncharted Wolf writes in and says, massive thanks to Kelsey for having me on Collector Corner. The first community guest on that show. There we go.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, enjoyed that last episode, Kelsey. That was fun. Collector Corner, if you missed it, this is our limited series run with Kelsey hosting, just showing off amazing game collections from around the industry, and then also from the community. We highlight somebody new each and every week. It has to be a Patreon supporter, though, so if you have an amazing collection, you can jump in there, and there might be a good opportunity to show off stuff in the future. Have you learned anything doing that show so far, Kelsey? Have you had an epiphany?
An epiphany? I feel like I'm learning every week, like learning kind of the rhythm and the what's interesting to talk about, and how can I get people to say something interesting about the stuff, right.
Not
that they're not doing it, but how can I sort of help as the interviewer of sorts. So,
and it's a tough show.
I don't know that I've had an epiphany. I've just been learning.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough show because it's like, you had Chris Kohler on the last episode and everyone was saying, hey, let the show go for 4 hours, because it is like at some point we have to cut it off, because showing off an entire mega collectors like that, all of their details of their collection, it's impossible. But yeah, it's been fun. You can check it out on our YouTube channel, everybody. Adam Cohen writes in, says, hey, crew, I was watching Bluey recently with my son. It's a kid's cartoon. Kyle and Jeff will know what I'm talking about. Do y'all know Bluey?
I kind of missed Bluey, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know about him because he's got like ADHD or something. And so it's been I think that's sort of the premise of the show, is that it's really? Like for neurodivergent kids.
Supposed to be very good. Heard nothing but good things about it.
All right. I love that the parents in the show are not only funny, but also really good parents. Conversely, I get really annoyed when shows or movies have characters be bad parents just for a cheap laugh. What's a character detail you enjoy or dislike in fictional characters? That's a broad question. You got one, Jeff?
Answer this one.
I have a terrible one. See, you just post the questions,
what do you want?
We don't get like the good answers. So I'm like, oh yeah, I like ranch dressing. I could answer that one, and then it just sucks. My answer for that one, because I was playing Gotham Knights, is Batgirl when she's, her normal self. She has her shirt tucked halfway in, and I hate that.
You hate half tucks?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to stupid Nathan Drake, and it was like, oh, this is the greatest design ever because his shirts. Who walks around with a shirt halfway tucked in? That's just uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. How do you feel about Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII and how she has like her short shorts unbuttoned and like half zipped down? Does that also fall into your wardrobe malfunction?
I mean, if she just ate a Thanksgiving turkey, okay.
She did.
But I'm guessing that's not the situation.
That's her level 3 limit break, I think.
Before she showed up.
I mean, that's like the least egregious of Final Fantasy outfit blunders, though, right? Yeah. I mean, like, everyone's wearing so many belts.
And and also, if Eiko, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but Final Fantasy IX, it's like this little girl, and it's like, I think, if I remember correctly, they made her wear like, it looks like she's not wearing pants. And it's like a really poor choice. Like, if she's wearing skin-tight pants or whatever, like, make them something other than flesh-colored, because it's unnerving. Mine was going to be much more innocent than talking about JeffM's gross clothing thought. But this is just, it was in my mind because I just finished, Return to Monkey Island not too long ago. And I love that Guybrush and Elaine, they're married in that game. And they just have like a very sweet marriage, and you just occasionally run into each other, and Guybrush is just like, all right, love you, dear. And she's like, love you. And it's like, there's no drama. It is just like a healthy, loving marriage. And like, you don't really see that in games very often, but it's very sweet in that game. Blackjack writes in, says, hey, Ben and Kelsey. I'm sorry, everybody else. You all manage small businesses, so you're technically managers. Confusing, but sure. Do you ever think of yourself as a manager? And do you do anything to actively improve your management abilities? All right, really throwing you in the deep end. I feel like this is a confusing one because we don't really have employees at MinnMax. It's just like contractors. So the idea of like the manager thing, I think that's a cop out to be like, well, I'm not a manager, but it's like with contractors, I feel like it's murky, right?
Well, I still feel like you are, like you might not be a boss, but you're still a manager.
Okay,
you're
is that
still
how
in
it works?
charge of like sorting out what works best for everybody.
Sure.
You called Janet and woke her up this morning. How is that not a manager?
Oh, you should have heard that voicemail I left. It said, if you do this one more time, Garcia, I swear to God.
Garcia.
Kelsey, how you doing on the management front?
I mean, I think I literally am, right?
I for sure.
I have many employees, and I don't know. I mean, I do, to answer the second part of the question, I read a lot of books. Like, I actually like business books, and I also like reading them for, a lot of times, like, the advice will kind of be like, okay, I actually don't want to be like that. Like, what you're saying right now is very, you're not you're not thinking about the people so much. You're thinking about the business or like how to manipulate people into doing the thing. So I like to get a variety of perspectives, like reading business books, but also I recognize that some business books are not very good, but they're a good way of like helping me recognize like what traps I might fall into if I'm like too focused on, metrics or something like that and not about the people.
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like most business books are just going to be written by blowhards, like
there's some good ones, but I mean, there's,
do you have concrete advice that you've gotten that are good takeaways? Like I'll filibuster by, I remember reading, I think it was Ed Catmull's book about like the origins and history of Pixar and stuff. And I think it was in that where he said something about like, when your company grows to the point where the real conversations about what's wrong with it are happening in the hallways instead of in the meetings, then you failed. And it's like that's
a good one.
Yeah, or it's like that is a good tip. So it's like that's why hopefully I'm maybe too paranoid about constantly checking in with everybody at MinnMax and be like, okay, how are you doing? Is everybody secretly pissed? What's happening? Is everybody good? Is everybody good? And having that tone. Which, Kelsey, by the way, you've been very helpful. I feel like we were talking about Collector Corner on a call not too long ago, and then I got to pick your brain. I was like, okay, as a manager mind, can you help me with this one detail with our meetings? Because I think I could use some tips and improvement, and since you sit in a lot of them. So thank you for being a good sounding board on that front.
I try. My best piece of advice really is just, I think, giving people ownership over what they're doing, if you are too much of a boss and like dictating all of the things, I think people will just treat it like, clock in, clock out. And that's fine. But like, if you want to, I don't know, like I like people to have a pretty good time at work. I don't want them to be like, I do this thing because I got to get through another day because I have to. I want it to at least be like, you know what? As far as jobs go, this is pretty cool. So to get to that point, I think just giving people ownership and like letting them make a mistake and not like jumping in to save the mistake from happening and that sort of thing. Like let it happen and then be like, it's fine. Cool. You made a mistake and now you have a thing to take away from that.
Right. How do you do that? How do you give people ownership without literally giving them ownership?
Responsibilities and sort of the, like, in a literal sense for me, I mean, it's things like, every one of my staff has just blanket consent to give up to a like 15% discount for any reason if they feel like it's, it's helpful in the situation, if they feel like it'll, make a customer for life or, just something like that. Like,
interesting.
You don't need to ask me permission for like little things like this. Do you want to throw in a little freebie for someone? Like, do you want to, or do you feel like this person should leave even though they haven't like, they haven't broken anything or whatever? Like I will have your back. You can just tell them to leave. So it's that kind of thing. It's like you have the decision-making power in a lot of like little day-to-day things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, Kyle, are you dealing with being a manager for the first time now back at Game Informer?
Yes. I mean, I was a manager in my retail days.
Sure.
And then at GameSpot, I was almost similarly to you working with like freelancers a lot.
Okay, yeah.
And contractors and stuff. But this is, I mean, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to, pursue the sort of the new job at Game Informer was it is a managerial position. And I do have people who report to me directly. So I'm actually appreciating this conversation because I do feel like I need to think about that a lot more about it and be better about it.
Yeah. Have you learned anything so far? Has Blake Hester snapped on you or anything?
Oh, we fight constantly.
I would imagine, yeah.
Arguing about Game of the Year already.
Oh, fun. Fun. No, do you have any lessons so far? I mean, I know it's been literally a week and a half.
Nothing. No huge lessons to take away yet, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, fill us in when you got them. JeffM, do you have advice on good management in the past?
Yeah, but it's all centered around a 2-year-old now.
Interesting.
Let them do whatever they want because you're not going to
just give up.
Yep.
I guess, yeah, parenting, that's, I mean, there probably is, I bet parents are better managers inherently, right? There's got to be some overlap there. I'm sure there are 3,000 books written on this exact topic.
Parents.
Sure, I suppose so.
I mean, I feel like the thing I just said about letting people make their own mistakes and stuff is probably like that's probably also in a parenting book, right?
Right. Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mick Crack Kenway writes in and says, I just want to highlight Suriel Vasquez's new excellent video essay, Can Open World Games Exist Without Conquest? This is an essay that Suriel put up. Yeah, check it out. It's on his official YouTube channel. Check it out. Help support Suriel. Mulligan writes in and says, hey, Ben, the new shows all look great at MinnMax. Thank you. But as someone who primarily enjoys MinnMax through podcasts and not YouTube or Twitch, I can't keep up with them as much as I'd like. I'd love to hear your thoughts on MinnMax's lean towards video instead of podcasting content. Is the move towards video due to audience numbers, the creative opportunities video offers, just the fact that computer games are a visual medium? Do you see more shows coming in a podcastable format in the future, or is video the way forward for MinnMax? Thanks. I hope this isn't too much of a party chat type question for the regular show. Yeah, if you like these types of questions and answers, you'll love Party Chat, which is our bonus podcast where we dive much more into the weeds on all this stuff. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I hadn't really thought of it. I think part of it is like with the new Tuesday shows and stuff, Twitch is the easiest thing. It's like the least technical thing we can do in a lot of ways. And so it's just like, okay, JeffM, for example, hit go live on Twitch, you put that stream out, and it's pretty easy, and then we can pick up the archive and deal with it after the fact. But if it's like, all right, JeffM, produce this podcast content, I think there'd be more of a learning curve. So there's probably something there for where we're at. But it's not a big conscious thing, because I'm also primarily a podcast person. So I definitely want to make sure there's plenty of podcast content available, especially, I don't know what tier you're at, Mulligan, but if you're at that $5 tier, you get that bonus podcast feed, which is overflowing with bonus stuff like the deepest dives, and then all of our interviews are in there, our Max spoilers are in there, and party chats in there and stuff. So if you have that bonus podcast feed, it seems like it should be overflowing. But Kyle, have you thought about this? Do you feel like we're focusing too much on Twitch and video instead of podcast stuff?
No, there also is like, there's more, right? There's more money to be made by having content on Twitch.
Kyle,
YouTube, right?
Spoken like a real manager. This is all he cares about. He's caring for those whales on Twitch. Disgusting. Well,
the Twitch whales.
The sweet spot is, you stream on Twitch so you can grow that audience, because that really is a growing source of revenue for us. And then at the same time, we take that content, like a deepest dive, and then make a podcast version of that. And hopefully we can please everybody. But I will say, very early stages and all this stuff, but I have been talking to somebody about creating a new podcast with MinnMax. So we're still thinking about that angle as well, and maybe in its own standalone feed, or we'll figure out the details of that later on. But Rob Goddard writes in and says, my wife, best friend, and I were recently talking about her time as Blockbuster Video employees. It was a great trip down memory lane, and it made me wonder if there was any fond video store memories amongst the crew. Y'all like video stores?
Am I the only one that remembers video stores?
How dare you?
I had one that I could bike to, and that I would go to often, just a Blockbuster up the street. And they always had a video game on display. It was random, whatever it was. But I remember I went in there once and beat Star Fox 64, and one of the people there,
like in one sitting.
Yeah, it's not a long game, Star Fox 64.
Well, yeah, but
that's still
are they your daycare or something?
No, I don't know. I was a pleasant enough kid. I wasn't causing trouble. I just wanted to go play Star Fox. And I remember
where are your parents?
The person working there was actually impressed and was like, "Oh my gosh, you beat the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'm gonna go home now. See ya."
So handsome too. Oh my god.
Right.
I went and rented a bunch of stuff as a kid, but then it was summer after freshman year. So it would have been 2006, I think, of college. I went back home and was looking for a job, and I actually applied, and I was going to work doing landscaping, which was just pit of my stomach fear of I'm so terrible at everything physical. I cannot do this. I'm going to look like such an ass out there. And then last second, this opening happened at a video rental store called Family Video. And so I ended up working there over the summer. And I'm so thankful now that I got to actually work at a video rental store before they all imploded, and actually renting out VHS tapes, asking folks to rewind, giving late fees and all that stuff. It was fun. And so it was also not very popular there. And so every morning I would just go in and I would blast the Smash Brothers Melee soundtrack over the speakers, and I would play Ocarina of Time on the computer, just like a ROM of Ocarina of Time, and then talk about movies with people when they came in, and it was awesome. I loved it.
I mostly rented video games at the video rental stores growing up.
Yeah.
Games are expensive, so, I'm not buying you Gex, but sure, you can rent Gex. And then all the references went over my head, so.
Perfect.
I do weirdly miss, like, the worst part about going to a movie rental place is now the best part, which was just kind of like wandering the aisles and looking at movies, looking for something to watch. But looking back on it, there's something quaint about people from all over going to that same place and doing that same thing, and doing it with other people as opposed to just looking through like an endless Netflix stream and you still can't decide what to watch. But
yeah, I wonder emotionally.
But back then that always felt terrible. It was like, God, I don't want to go there, and I don't want to spend 30 minutes looking, and there's nothing to watch anyway. But now I guess I have nostalgia for that.
Yeah. I remember people would always ask me for movie recommendations and stuff, which, like, I was big into Rotten Tomatoes in those days and stuff. And I remember one time this guy, and he was a weird guy, but he's like, could you recommend like a romantic or sexy movie for me and my wife to watch? I was like, what is this? And I was like, there's some new movie out. It looks like some movie set in the 1800s in France or something. It seems like it's a romantic film. Go ahead and check that out. And then he brought it back like 4 weeks later. And I was saying, like, all right, well, you have these late fees. And he was just livid. And I just remember him screaming at me, like, that movie wasn't even romantic. That wasn't even sexy. Like, yelling at me, like, I didn't see it.
His counter argument.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's a dollar amount you owe us, sir. All right, what do y'all like for a question of the week? I like the management question. That was different.
I like that one.
That's one of the ones I wrote down, too.
Okay. Yeah. What else you got, Kelsey?
I liked the sauces question.
Yeah. Sauces is good. JeffM nailed it to a degree I've never seen before. I like management. Y'all feeling good about that?
Yeah, I like that one.
See, that's the key to management, Kelsey, is you just say, hey, does everybody got a problem? Is everybody good? Okay, all right, I think that's it. There we go. Blackjack, congratulations. You just won We Are OFK from I Am 8-Bit. Now it's time for something that we call Get a Load of This. All right, JeffM, it all comes down to you.
Get a load of this. You know what? Actually, I'm going to put this into the Discord's chat so that you guys can see the picture of this thing.
Okay.
This is an article from Design Boom, and it says, insect suit carries plastic-eating mealworm colonies sheltered by human body heat.
This is from Death Stranding. This is just a Death Stranding screenshot.
It absolutely is. Yes, this is how we're going to solve the plastic problem that we already have. And the answer apparently is to wear, a Death Stranding suit with like a giant bubble in the front that's full of a mealworm colony, and it's glass, so you can see them like chewing away at whatever plastic that you put in there, and it uses your body heat to break things down. So I look forward to all of us wearing these in the future everywhere that we go.
Can't you just set these up by a volcano or something and the mealworms?
No, you don't want to do that. You want to wear it. Look how stylish that is.
That is unnerving. It's going to be the new Google Glass. It'll be like a trend for a while. Everyone wearing a mealworm suit.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Links below if you want to check it out, everybody. Let's see. Hey, get a load of this. Rich Summer, who you might remember from Firewatch and whatnot, he just tweeted out, retweeted somebody else tweeting this thing, which is just old Hollywood bloopers. I don't know if you've all seen this, but it's just like classic films. So if you ever want to see like Cary Grant blowing his lines, Jimmy Stewart just fumbling over stuff, like it's just so fun just to have Jimmy that reminder.
Stewart fumbling?
He fumbles. That's for Don Knotts. There's a fine line between Don Knotts and Jimmy Stewart, which is we'll talk about it in a future Deepest Dive, I'm sure. But it's just fun to hear like old Hollywood fumble instead of just being so pitch perfect all the time. It's like, oh, it turns out those people in those movies back then, they were human beings, Kyle, and they're silly when the cameras weren't rolling, or they were rolling but not being used in the film. You know what I mean? So link below for that fun thing.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you. Kelsey, what do you got?
So get a load of this. There was an auction recently in Paris where a bunch of dinosaurs were sold, and this is just wild to me because I never really considered the idea that one could just purchase a dinosaur. Like,
don't get Ben started on auction
Hang on,
prices
what's
and
this?
dinosaurs.
What's this?
It's a big sore.
Well, a
topic.
Fallen Kingdom, it completely crapped the bed on that. But okay, yeah. But how much are these things?
Well, there was one that sold for like $500,000, and I just obviously that's a lot of money. But hear me out.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of people in the world that can afford a $500,000 dinosaur. Not us, not most people, but like that is, you know, probably like a stadium-sized amount of people that could afford to just own a dinosaur. And that's wild to me. I don't know.
You realize
you can just
this is season 2 of
one.
Collector Corner. Is just you talking to people who have dinosaur collections. Yeah, I guess like
get Bruce Wayne.
Thomas Jefferson was really into buying dinosaur skeletons and fossils and stuff.
I just feel, I mean, I know this is a tired argument for auctions, and this is probably happening at art auctions all the time where it's like, it belongs in a museum or whatever, but like, it actually feels like dinosaurs kind of belong in a museum, right? Like,
not everyone. There's some redundant, some boring herbivore.
I guess there's more dinosaur, like complete dinosaur skeletons than I thought there were.
I mean, unlike, a piece of art, this is a thing that just does technically exist out in the world.
Yeah.
People had to track it down and dig it up, but
as Kyle referenced, the dumbest thing is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. They auction off living dinosaurs and it goes for like 1.2 million. It's like, what? That's it? One of 7 dinosaurs on planet Earth? Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You could just own it if you're wealthy enough, and you don't have to be like, Bill Gates level wealthy.
Yeah.
You just have a dinosaur.
I smell a new Patreon goal.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, you know that Bill Gates does actually own a dinosaur skeleton. Like, I'm serious. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I remember we were on a boat. It was when we were Game Informer. Everybody take a shot. Gates? Yeah, no, we were on the boat of like the studio head for Sucker Punch and going around Seattle and Lake Washington and all that stuff. Help me out, Kelsey. You know the territory better than I do. But he's like, okay, we can either go this way or we can go this way. And if we go this way, we'll see Bill Gates's house and he has a full T-Rex skeleton out in front.
What?
And then everybody else, and it's like lit up. It has like, you can see it online. You can find it. But then everyone's like, well, let's go the other way.
Getting on a boat this week.
Yeah,
man.
you need to.
I want to go.
But everybody else on the boat wanted to go the other way. And I'm like, we get to see Bill Gates' T-Rex. What are you doing? I tried to grab the steering wheel and grab it over.
I was going to say, yeah.
They threw me overboard. He sucker punched me. Kyle, what do you got?
Hey, get a load of this. This is, maybe you can fast forward a bit if you haven't seen Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yeah.
But he had this tweet, which I just thought was interesting. That movie it's a cool movie. He tweeted November 30th, 2014. He shared this tweet, so this is many years ago. Dreamt that a baby chimp attacked some people, then ran to me and hugged me all scared. I woke up with tears streaming down my face. Hashtag bruh.
Yeah, I love that. Somebody in an interview asked him about that, and he didn't even remember it. Yeah, but that's my favorite thing is digging through Twitter.
He didn't remember it. He made a whole movie.
Kyle, shut him. Jeff, do you get one from the community?
Yeah, get a load of this. This one was from That Flow State, and it's an excerpt from a podcast because everybody has a podcast nowadays. And this podcast is Tony Hawk and Jason Ellis, two old timer skateboarders. But it's just a minute-long clip of them talking about how doing the podcast that they're doing is costing them money every week, and then just laughing maniacally about it as it like dawns on both of them that this is what they're doing with their time. And it's very funny.
How is it costing them money?
I don't know. I guess because they're buying equipment or something like that. But they just both have a very long and very good laugh. And I don't know if they were also imbibing things before this happened, but
I see how it goes.
It's very fun.
There we go. Link below for all that fun stuff. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. If you enjoyed it, you can share it online, leave a review, all that fun stuff. We appreciate it. it was our anniversary, our 3rd anniversary. And I'm reminded every anniversary that the earliest discussions that we had about forming MinnMax, literally as early as you can get, we recorded them. And if you support MinnMax at the $5 tier, you can unlock the bonus podcast feed where you can just listen to us for like 2 hours, very awkwardly working through what this thing could be.
I think I really called it in that discussion where I said I think it might be good.
Mike, it's like Babe Ruth calling the shot. But just for a sample of that, don't be confused. This is a clip, everybody, from those earliest meetings.
Do you see this as a full-time thing for you, or like you just?
I don't know. I have no.
I
have no
idea either. Right? It could be.
Are you going to do a Patreon for it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was something.
Right. Yeah, that's the plan. And so it's either going to be all Patreon or 90% freelance, or like somewhere
in the
on
middle.
that spectrum. I
Are
think.
you talking about supporting yourself?
Yeah.
Are you leaving Game Informer?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't even know about that?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you unlock the bonus podcast feed, you can listen to that full discussion if you want to hear truly MinnMax's raw origins. And you can just search in the bonus podcast feed. I think it's just called MinnMax's earliest meetings. If you search meetings, it'll pop up in there. Also, this week at MinnMax, we had an interview with Noah Falstein from LucasArts. I mean, he's the person who hired Ron Gilbert just to tie everything together here. But we talk about his consulting on Return to Monkey Island. We talk about him co-designing Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. It's kind of a follow-up to our deepest dive there. He also worked at Google. He was like the chief game design officer or some nonsense within Google for a while. So he saw the origins of Stadia. He's been in the industry for, I think, like 43 years at this point. He has a lot to say, so you can check that out on YouTube or in the bonus podcast feed if you're interested. Also on Friday, we have a new episode of Crossfade, our music podcast hosted by Matt Helgeson, former host of the Game Informer show, and Jason Daphnis. And on this episode, the music critic Alana Levin is on the show to talk about Def Leppard and Cinderella. So subscribe to Crossfade on your favorite podcast app. It is not a Patreon exclusive. It's a whole separate thing. Also, to go back in time to talk about our bonus podcast feed, we have now started uploading ad-free versions of the MinnMax show for Patreon supporters. So if you have that podcast feed, the bonus podcast feed, the versions of the MinnMax show in there are going to be ad-free for you. We'll still include the I'm 8-bit prize. Like, that seems like the right way to go about it. But if you want a completely ad-free version of the show and you want to help support us or throw a thank you our way for 3 years of content, that is a good way to do it. So patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Kelsey, what do you got going on?
I've still got my podcast, Video Game History Hour, which you can follow. And also, I think people should check out Collector Corner, too, here on MinnMax.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
We're
Check it out on YouTube.
recording another episode next week.
It's going to be fun, everybody. And thanks, everybody, for supporting us, including everybody at that $50 tier over there on Patreon, the Game Champion tier. They can choose any game under the sun, and they are officially the champion of it. So hats off to Procyon number 6, who is still the champion of Ghost of Tsushima, but not the killing dogs part, Kyle. Specifically, not that part.
Thank you.
And then Joe Dean is the champion of Hotel Dusk, room 215. Awesome choice, Joe Dean. Officially the champion. Help support us, choose any game under the sun. We're going to have our poll coming up pretty soon here to choose which game we're actually making bonus content about. That's how the whole Game Champion thing works. Kyle, did I forget if you wanted to plug anything?
I will plug that the protagonist's name of Hotel Dusk is Kyle.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Kyle H.
Oh, that's even more beautiful. Look at that. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week for some God of War talk. We'll go a little more in depth and then probably talking Resident Evil Village, DLC, and a bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Be good. Have fun. Let's go.